I, 35M, feel like I made a huge mistake by marrying my wife, 30F, but I also feel like a huge hypocrite because I was the one who changed. My wife Sarah and I have been married for 7 years and we have been together for a total of 10 years. I was raised in a very traditional and religious household and was brought up believing that men are the breadwinners and women should stay at home with the kids. Sarah was raised in an equally religious household and had similar views as I did. After college, I got a job doing financial work for a large company and moved to a different city. I didn't know anyone in the area and decided that attending one of the local churches would help me meet new people. Sarah was one of the church members and I fell head over heels for her. She is one of the most beautiful women I have ever laid eyes on and she is also extremely kind and caring. After a year of dating, I proposed to her and we were married after a 2-year engagement. After the wedding, Sarah finished her degree and started talking about having children. I asked her to wait a few years until I started earning enough money and she agreed. Kids went on the back burner for a while and Sarah dedicated herself to creating a home for us while I went to work. A few years passed and I finally got the promotion at work. Sarah was ecstatic and we both agreed that we could have the baby. Sarah and I tried for only 2 months before she became pregnant. She was thrilled, but my happiness was mixed with a bit of apprehension and nervousness. I didn't know if I could handle taking care of another human and it was scary. I decided to suck it up and put on the brave face for Sarah's sake. Our son was born and Sarah devoted herself to caring for him. Because I had been promoted, I started spending less and less time at home. The job was demanding and I was working 70-plus-hour weeks. I had to wake up earlier and earlier while Sarah stayed in bed and slept. When I came home, Sarah always looked relaxed and happy, playing with the baby. I know that I was being irrationally jealous, but I started to resent Sarah. Taking care of the baby seemed so much easier than my job and I hated how all of the financial responsibility fell back on me. It has been 2 years since I started feeling this resentment and I started going to a therapist, but it's not helping. I hate coming home every day and trying to speak with Sarah. She has never had a job and does not understand how stressed I am from working. It's like I am speaking to a child whenever I try to discuss anything like finances or any topic more in depth than what is taught in high school. I don't want to be married to someone who doesn't feel like my equal. I know that this isn't Sarah's fault, but I feel like I am trapped and I just want out. TLDR, I'm bad at summaries. Wife and I married and she always planned on being a stay-at-home mom. I took a promotion at work and now I feel resentful towards my wife for staying at home with the baby. It doesn't feel like Sarah is an adult and I don't know how to handle it. Comments. Commenter 1. Keep up the counseling. And add couples counseling. You two have communications and expectations issues. You originally agreed to her never working. You are changing the game now. Why didn't she work before you two decided to have a child? You write like you agreed on that. You should probably get a vasectomy so you don't have any more children, just in case. Taking care of a house and child is not easy. You can pay $20 for a maid, more for the cook, and I don't know how much for a nanny while your wife works. So you can come home to an irritable spouse, a cranky baby and someone who doesn't want to hear about your day. For some folks, you are living the dream. You get to come home to a clean and happy household. Your child is being raised by a primary parent. You don't have to worry about your wife cheating on you or doing drugs or abusing your child or being a financial drain. She isn't dumping her daily woes on you, instead she is taking care of things, getting the furnace fixed, waiting for the plumber, painting the spare room, decorating for the holidays, making good food, etc. And you resent that. You may need a different counselor, but keep trying. Here are some other things that can help: hit the gym, get those endorphins flowing. Learn something new, take a parenting class or 2. Teach your child to ride a tricycle or fly a kite, etc. Reply, I'll try to suggest the couples counseling. And you are right, I did agree to all of that in our relationship. That's why I feel like a huge hypocrite, because I am being hypocritical now. I know enough to realize that, but I don't know what I can do to fix it. We do have a maid that comes by once a week and honestly I would trade the clean house for a wife that can hold a conversation with me about anything other than reality TV or what happened in church. And yes, I resent it. I don't know why I do, but I do. I don't want to feel this way. Commenter 2. I have a friend who I went to school with. Both to business school after, lived as roommates together post-college, but he moved on. Makes 3x the amount I do, which is impressive for anyone his age and education. And he has no time with his wife or kids except 1 day a week, has no friends anymore. I on the other hand work hard at my job for my 8 to 9 hours a day, come home and it's gone. I'm not worried about work ever, and it's great. I like my job, I love my home life. Update: I took a week to think about the post and my own feelings. I talked it out in therapy and I came to the conclusion that I could not keep working 70 hours a week. It was destroying my relationship with my wife and son, and it was also destroying my happiness. I spoke to my boss and he was very understanding and told me that there was enough in the budget to hire an assistant for me. My assistant started 2 weeks ago and my workload has been dramatically reduced. I have been able to work a normal 40-hour work week and I am now finally coming home before 6 p.m. each weekday. I spoke with my best friend about my wife and he knocked some sense into me. He told me how jealous he and the rest of our friends were over my wife and how lucky I was to be with a woman who is supermodel attractive, yet driven and kind and compassionate like my wife. Later that night, I drank a bottle of scotch and got sloppy drunk. My wife found me puking in the bathroom and in my drunken haze I confessed to her everything I was holding back. I told her about how I felt left out because I wasn't around for our son, how I didn't feel connected to her like I wanted to be, the whole 9 yards. She held me and let me cry it out and she told me that she loved me. The wife and I are headed to couples counseling, but we also signed up for cooking classes to build a common hobby. She says that she will stay by me as long as I stay by her, no matter what happens. I love her and she loves me and I think we are going to be okay. One last detail that I can't think to put anywhere else: all 3 of us are taking a month-long vacation after Christmas in order to have family bonding time. Wife and I both agree that we need this vacation. TLDR, pulled my head out of my ass and told my boss that I had too much work to handle. I got an assistant and relieved myself from that stress. I spoke with my best friend who knocked some sense into me about how wonderful my wife is. She and I are going to counseling and we are going to work it out. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you. Now keep it up. Don't do the stoic, suffer in silence type. Trust your wife to listen to and care about your problems. A Psalm can still be educated and sophisticated. Encourage her to grow intellectually with you. Reply: thanks. My problem was that I let my prejudices cloud my view of my wife. She studied hospitality management and I wasn't able to view her skills with the same respect as I gave to math and finance. I'm learning different techniques to rewire my brain into having a less conservative view. I made a list of all the skills that Sarah has and how they blow mine out of the water. Her skills aren't any less worthwhile than mine, they are simply different. CBT is helping. Stories number 2. Aita for kicking my fiancé out after, joking, he got me pregnant on purpose. I, 23F, have been with my fiancé, 26M, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily, and after dinner me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant before I realized what a dickhead he was. They laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms, but after a few instances where the condom broke I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on BC I got pregnant. We were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared ASF, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get an abortion, I just didn't want one, and so decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby, I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said and at first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said okay, good, because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking, but I was also wanted to see how he reacted and he was pissed. He said why the fuck would he sign a prenup, that we have a baby together, a house together, and that he would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character of him to get loud, which it was. He's never acted like that before, and I replied saying I appreciate the apology but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. Sunday he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now things that went over my head before, I'm starting to think is sus, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Am I overthinking this being an a-hole? Sum of comments. Commenter 1. If you have a house together, why is he sending flowers to the apartment? Reply. We closed on a house but we're staying at my apartment until the lease is up. Commenter 2. Please 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 do not marry him. Call off this relationship. He wants you barefoot and pregnant. Run, the pill is super easy to tamper with. All your ex needs to do is microwave your birth control pills for a short time and your birth control pills are completely useless. Reply, I didn't know this. Wow. I never even considered him doing anything like that. I take them like clockwork, so it definitely wasn't that I missed a day or anything like that. Commenter 3, I haven't seen it said yet, but you mentioned having 2 trust funds, one that you got when you were 18. Does he know this? Think about it. If you don't have a prenup, he'll have access to that trust fund. Don't be naive. And the condom? Come on. He totally baby trapped you. Wake up. Reply, yeah, he knows about the trust fund. He was at my brother's 18th. Where my dad said to him not to spend all his money at once and he asked if all the siblings got one, which we did. Update. A lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup at the time, I wasn't being serious. Maybe I was being an trying to get a reaction, but based on the 3 years we've been together I would have never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago he lost his job. He was never really clear why. For the next 3-4 months he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job. I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3-4 years. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there. But during the time he was out of work my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills, rent by myself, which at the time didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal, but I guess it was them that first made me question. TBH, I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split, and then I checked it the next time that was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD. Which he didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I got on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd ran out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still use them, but I choose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one. If I got pregnant I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us, but I've never really liked that idea, mainly because, although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus my fiancé's current salary I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, don't you think there was a reason he didn't want you to get an IUD? He can't tamper with that, but he did with the latex. Reply, he sent me a few things where people IUDs went wrong and yeah, I probably should have gone with my gut, but he convinced me the pill would be the best option. But I did speak to my mom because he's come back home. Commenter 2, the real problem is him not supporting your career. He should be supporting your business and your job, not making you be a stay-at-home housewife. That's ridiculous. Yes, mothers with young children can still start businesses, but they have to be appropriately supported. Can you say he can give you that support? Reply, probably not. He's been quite blunt in that he doesn't think I could do both effectively, and after our son was born he said he didn't want a large age gap between kids. Update post. I23F made a post last week about a joke my fiancé, 26M, made at Thanksgiving while drunk, to everyone that hasn't seen my older post. He joked that he got me pregnant to tie me down and I didn't know what to make of it, so I posted on here to get outside opinions. I didn't want to initially talk to my friends or family about it because they're all quite close to him and I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill and cause drifts in their relationships. Yesterday we had a conversation about where I was at, but he said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was OTP to one of my girls in the bedroom, he came in and took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we was eating he said that he understood what I said and that things need to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby and when I came back I saw him take my keys out my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed, instead of the couch like we had agreed. Like everything was normal I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancé was still sleeping and we left. Me and my son are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay at my parents'. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents who've paid for it have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and private messaged me. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty. And if we break up altogether, we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage, our joint accounts, and I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary. Sum of comments. Commenter 1. This guy is bad news. Got you pregnant, laid down the law, and hid your car keys. Don't feel bad about your parents being out of money for what they have spent. From what you told us about his latest stunt and your friend's commentary about him, trust us, they are pleased as punch that he finally revealed himself to you in terms that you can't ignore. I'm guessing they have been biting their tongues, but despite their angst at your choice, chose to respect it and support it. Reply. They said that they didn't like how we was getting so serious too fast or how he moved into my apartment, but then I got pregnant, so they didn't want to seem unsupportive. Commenter 2. Listen to this. Condoms kept breaking. That so rarely happens that it happening more than once is super sus. He freaked out over you getting an IUD, a birth control method completely out of his control. Because he can break condoms and steal replace mess with your pills, but there's nothing he can do about an IUD. He refused to wear condoms your first month on the pill, even though you asked him to. Yes, you agreed to go ahead without, but on that score alone I'd leave. He couldn't hold out for 1 month. You got pregnant during that first month. When you confronted him about his joke and joked back, he lost his shit and scared you. He disrespected your boundary. He couldn't smoke outside. That was the only hotel in the entire region. He has no friends whose couches he can sleep on. Just know, he took your phone away. Why did you let him? He made it your responsibility to fix the relationship. His tone scared you. He stole your keys. He disrespected another boundary, sleeping in the bed. OP, how many red flags do you need? Do not go back to him. That's why he got you pregnant in the first place, so you wouldn't leave him. Leave him. Reply. He took my phone to get me off the call. I didn't expect him to literally come and take it out my hand. He gave it back when I came out the room. He just did it to get my attention. As a separate comment, I left with none of my stuff, only essentials for my son. I will have to go back, but my dad said he and my brother will go today. Commenter 3. Hey OP. If you feel guilty about your parents having paid for stuff, cancel what you can and have a good riddance party with your friends and family with what you can't cancel. Reply. My mom's been canceling things from this morning. The wedding's off. Commenter 4. Your head is probably spinning from everything, so sorry you're going through this. What's happening to you is called betrayal trauma. It's easy for women to start to tune out our instincts, but this is a lesson on how real your instincts are. Thank God you realized before you married him. He let the mask slip off too much, but from an outsider's perspective it's clear this was just the start. It takes the average women 7 times to leave an abusive relationship because we get sucked back in by promises and small sample data of changes. Be strong, get a therapist, lean on your community and heal. If you go back, he can start displaying more desperate behavior like what you saw with the keys, and it can get dangerous very fast. He saw you as his life raft and now his life has capsized. Reply. Heavy on the lean on my community. I had the first honest and open conversation with my mom for the first time in a long time, and I feel so different and so much better. My head was a mess and Reddit probably wasn't the best place to talk about it, but it's anonymous and it felt good to get it out. Update post 2. I, 23F, made a post on here about my ex-fiancé, 26M, and a joke he made at Thanksgiving. Things escalated and I decided to take our 7-month-old and leave. We've been at my parents since then. I didn't go about it the right way, leaving without telling him, and the next morning understandable he was confused when we weren't at home. Initially I went no contact, and because he couldn't reach me he called the police saying that he thought I was having some type of breakdown and have PPD and that he was afraid for me and our son's safety. The police alerted my parents that I'd been reported missing and asked if they'd seen or heard from me, and we explained that I left because I felt uncomfortable in the apartment with him. So I started speaking to him again. I told him why I left but apologized for leaving the way I did, and he also apologized for everything that's gone down. He said he'd bought stuff for me and the baby for Christmas already and wanted to give it to us, so asked if he could come to my parents' house at Christmas. It was our son's first Christmas. Despite what's going on between us, he's still his dad and I didn't want to make him miss out. I explained all this to my parents who agreed to let him come, and we had a good day. He brought the stuff like he said and he was respectful and didn't drink. It felt like how it used to. He came back the next day because he left his wallet, but we talked for a while. He promised to stop drinking because that was what caused everything. him getting drunk and saying something stupid without thinking, and he was alright with us postponing the wedding saying he just missed his family. He asked if we'd come back with him but I said I wanted to stay here. He said he understood. We didn't speak for a few days and he sent a care package with things he knew I liked and he wrote in the letter that since all my stuff was still at the apartment he wanted me to have things that reminded me of home. I called him to say thank you and we've FaceTimed, so he could see the baby. I went out on night with some friends from high school and the day after he texted me, asking if I got home alright and if I was hungover. I said I was fine but then I realized I didn't tell him I was going out, so I asked how he knew and he said he saw me on an Insta story and knew it was my first time drinking since giving birth. He said he didn't go out and could have watched our son but I didn't plan to go out. Originally, I was gonna stay home but my mom encouraged me to go, and by the time I decided I was going, it was too short notice he wouldn't have been able to come in time, since it's a 6-hour maybe longer drive depending on traffic but I could have at least let him know I guess. My dad and brother wanted to drive back to the apartment to get my stuff so I asked him when would be a good time for them to go and he said that I didn't need to move out and that even though he thinks I'm blowing everything out of proportion he would wait for me to get over it so we could be a family again because he needs us and that he'd stay in a hotel and I should move back in. The wedding's been cancelled. My parents lost most of the deposits, which I'm gonna pay them back, and everyone I could tell that the wedding's been cancelled I've told I'm not sure if he's done the same. At Christmas my SIL was complaining about the new iOS update and how annoying it was and I hadn't updated my phone yet so I decided to do it then and left my phone on charge. When I had remembered and went to check on my phone it had reset and my ex said that, his one did the same thing. This account was a burner and I didn't remember the details initially when I reinstalled Reddit but I managed to get back into it. My parents said I can stay as long as I need but I feel like a burden. They were supposed to go away in a week but they've cancelled it and they lost all that money on the wedding. So I need to figure myself out soon. A part of me thinks I'm being stupid throwing away my family over what started as a drunk joke but it's become more than that and I'm just lost ATM but yeah that's where I'm at. But I wanna thank y'all, I've had a lot of messages and people checking on me. I know some are probably disappointed that I haven't cut him off completely but it's not that simple especially with a baby and these last few weeks he's gone back to how he used to be and I'm realizing that I've probably caused a lot of this by overthinking the joke. Some of comments. I clarifies. I don't care whose Insta he saw me on to be honest I haven't been able to get into my account since Christmas it's so old I don't remember the login details. To a downvoted commenter. I get I should have told him I was going to my parents but I've already apologized for that. I'm not keeping our son from him. Every time he's asked to see the baby he came at Christmas he didn't ask to see him on Nye. Commenter, if you are thinking of going back, make sure there is an agreement that your career and job is not affected by having children. Also, in your last update you informed him where you were going. So how could he be confused? Reply, my dad asked him this at Christmas but he said he just panicked and called the police as soon as he woke up and realized we was gone without checking his messages. Update post. I, 23F, made posts on here a few months ago about my BF, 27M, our relationship blew up after he made a joke about getting me pregnant on purpose at Thanksgiving. I know I haven't posted in a few months but I got back together with him. At the time him and his family were making me feel guilty for breaking up my family. So I did it for the sake of my son. I figured if we were happy then I could forget everything that happened and give my son the childhood that I had. We moved into the new house, we were so good for the first few weeks. My parents go on a cruise for a month every February for my mom's birthday. They wasn't gonna go this year but I felt like we was in such a good place that I said I'd be okay and told them to go. I started having brunch with my girls again but one week it was dinner to fit everyone's schedule. He found out one of my friends who he doesn't like was there and locked me out of the house, so I slept in my car. When he let me back in he said it was because it was late so he thought I was staying at a friend's. I think it was around 10:30 that I got back, but my friend who was there said that he watched her Instagram story so I asked him again and that's when he said he doesn't like me hanging out with someone who doesn't respect him. He did apologies and I know it was fucked but I just let it go. I decided when our son turned 10 months that I was ready to go back to work part-time. We have an on-site daycare and I'd only be in the office 2 days a week and WFH 1 day. I told him about my plan and he didn't like it but I stood my ground. He just made it so difficult to be in the office. He'd call me, then he started showing up with the baby. So I started working from home 2 days a week instead but then he would go out to the gym and leave me while I'm working with our now crawling baby so that became basically impossible. I said that I needed to work to pay my half of the mortgage, but he said I didn't need to and was choosing to but the compromise was that his mom would come over and watch our son on the days I was working. Him and his mom would say that I'm not taking good care of the house or our son because I'm working and going out. It didn't help that our baby's going through a clingy phase and is hysterical crying whenever I put him down. I met his grandma for the first time and she tripped on a toy car that I forgot to pick up. She was fine, she didn't fall or hurt herself but it did scare us. That night he got physical for the first time. He said he didn't like how I just laughed it off when his grandma could have really hurt herself, which I understood because his grandmother's 89. We would be good and then I'd do something to ruin the mood. I'd try not to, but at times it was like me existing would piss him off. My parents have been wanting to FT while they've been away, but I would always air their calls and just send videos of the baby instead. But my mom called me today while I was working and I answered forgetting my cheek was still a bit swollen, and I ended up just telling her everything and they're flying back tomorrow. My BF's mom heard me on the phone and cussed me out. She basically said that my relationship should be private and that it's no one's business what me and my BF do. Commenter, girl, I know it's easier said than done to leave the father of your child, but you are being abused. It will never stop, and what if it extends to your child? What if he hits your son? Would you want your son to see his mom being abused? Kids pick up on these things far faster than we realize. Would want your son to abuse his future partner because that's how his parents' relationship was? For your son to think this okay, would be tell your friend to stay if this was her in your place. Why would you accept something for yourself when you wouldn't want the same for others? Hold yourself to the same standard you hold your dear ones. Please leave him. Think of your satisfy and what kind of life you want for your son. Document everything and get full custody. You have your support network in the form of family and friends, which many victims of abuse don't have. Please don't let him isolate you. Your son will be so much better off without a father like him in his life. He has you and his supportive grandparents. Reply, I know, I'm trying to. He just knows me. Update. His mom made me feel like I had just ruined my life by telling my mom what's been going on. She was saying how much he wanted to be a family and a father unlike his own. She said how much she struggled being a single mom and how lucky I am to have someone who wants to take care of me, and that it's gonna be hard to find someone who's willing to look after someone else's kid. My parents landed the next evening and my mom insisted I go to the hospital. It was there that I discovered I had actually fractured my rib. It was just a hairline fracture, but my doctor was required to report my injuries. I was discharged and me and my son are back at my parents' house. We haven't spoken since I've left. I know that he's not good for me, and someone said how my son's going to grow up thinking it's okay to hit your partner, and that's fucked up. I was in a bubble and it popped as soon as I spoke to my mom. I never thought I'd be in an abusive relationship, but it's like I woke up and was suddenly in one. Reading back my posts, yeah, I'm like this is fucked, but when it's happening in real time it was easier for me to ignore all the messed up shit. I'm meeting with my dad's lawyer on Tuesday to talk about the next steps. Stories number 3. Aita for refusing to pay for my Miles' 82nd birthday dinner and ruining the night. Okay, so this happened last weekend and I'm still honestly really torn about it. My husband thinks I overreacted, but my sister says I've been the emotional glue in this family for years and I finally snapped. I need some outside perspective. So I, 34F, have been married to my husband, 36M, for 8 years. We have 2 young kids, 6 and 4. His parents live about 40 minutes away and we see them regularly, but it's always felt heavy, like I'm constantly walking on eggshells around his mom, Mil, 82F. She's very old school, very controlling, and has never really liked me. She's made it pretty clear she thinks I'm not a good fit for her son. I'm polite, I help out during holidays, and I've organized birthdays and anniversaries for her even when I was 8 months pregnant. She never says thank you, only criticizes. My husband. He shrugs it off. Says that's just how she is, and tells me to ignore it. I've tried. For years. Now here's where it gets tricky. My Mil passed away 5 years ago, and ever since, my Mil has had this standing tradition of a big birthday dinner at this fancy restaurant she loves. Like, super expensive. And every year since Fil died, she expects us to cover the bill. No discussion. Just expects it. We're not rich. We both work, we're comfortable, but we have debt and childcare and life stuff. My Mil has her own savings and pension. She owns her house outright. But every year it's, you two got this, right? And I feel too awkward to say no. This year, money's been tight. We had to replace our furnace. One of our kids needed dental work not covered by insurance. I told my husband weeks ago that we can't afford this year's birthday dinner. He brushed it off, said we'll figure it out. He didn't bring it up again, so I assumed he talked to her. Well, the dinner comes. We all show up. Her, my husband's sister and her husband, their adult son and his girlfriend, and us with our 2 kids. She orders wine, appetizers, dessert, everything. The whole table does. Me and the kids just shared a pizza cause I was trying to keep the cost down. End of the meal check comes, everyone just sits there. I look at my husband. He's scrolling his phone. I whisper, are you covering this? He goes, yeah, I thought you brought the joint card. I didn't. I had told him. I reminded him. We'd agreed it wasn't in the budget. I calmly, okay maybe not that calmly, said, we're not paying. We can't. Mil hears that, full dramatic gasp. Says, excuse me. Sil jumps in like, you always pay. What's going on here? And my husband, instead of backing me up, just shrugs and says, we didn't plan for it this time. Mil literally stands up and says I'm embarrassing the family and starts crying. In the restaurant. Long story short, Sil ends up paying, but everyone is furious with me. Mil hasn't spoken to me since and sent a long Facebook post about being abandoned on her birthday. Husband says I could have handled it differently, but I feel like I've been carrying this emotional weight for years and finally just said no. My sister says it's about time someone else stepped up. But I still feel awful. Like maybe I did make the night about me. I didn't want a scene but I also didn't want to be walked over again, so. Aita for not paying and ruining my Mil's birthday dinner. Stories number 4. I lied to get revenge on a rude passenger and when I walk around I still think about it. I have a little secret I've never told anyone. It might sound stupid or even funny, but it makes me feel really guilty. I travel a lot, sometimes for work, sometimes for holidays. I fly so often that I occasionally recognize the same flight attendants on certain airlines. They probably don't recognize me, but that's not really important. One thing I've noticed at airports is how people queue up 20+ minutes before boarding even starts. Since I travel a lot, I usually just sit and wait until the crowd thins out. No rush, no holding anyone back, just avoiding the unnecessary stress. Anyway, one day while I was waiting, I noticed a middle-aged woman aggressively pushing her way through the queue, claiming she'd been there first. Picture this, fake blonde hair, Louis Vuitton bags, chin held high like royalty, shoving people aside without even a sorry or excuse me. Sadly, not the first time I've seen that kind of entitlement. But what really got to me was when she used her foot to move a child, probably 6 or 7 years old, out of her way, like he was some inanimate object. That stuck with me. Fast forward to boarding the plane, guess who's sitting in the window seat I specifically paid for? I didn't want to cause a scene, but I calmly told the flight attendant that she was in my seat and the lady was being difficult with me. Before the attendant could even say anything, the woman exploded, accusing me of lying, yelling that she got there first and nobody told her otherwise. I just stood there with a confused look, letting her dig her own grave. She kept escalating, eventually insulting the flight attendant and making threats. In the end, she was escorted off the plane. People actually clapped. But here's the thing, I lied. I never interacted with the lady. I just wanted a small, petty bit of revenge for the way she treated that kid. And now I can't stop thinking about it. I know people have bad days. Maybe she was going through something awful. But because of me, she missed her flight, and I happen to know she had to wait 2 whole days for the next one. I don't want sympathy. I'm not looking for validation. I just needed to let this out. Maybe now, when I walk around thinking about it, I'll feel a little lighter. Stories number 5. Aita for telling my family that my sister strongly implied that she doesn't want me at her wedding, causing most of them to RSVP no. My sister and I have always had a complex relationship and are very different from one another, but I do love her and only want her to be happy. She got engaged a few months ago and at the beginning of last month she called me and told me that they're going to have the wedding in Alberta since his whole family is there. Then she said that she wants me there but would totally understand if I didn't come since I don't fly and it's a 3 to 4 day drive. At that moment I didn't realize she was telling me not to come, so I told that I wouldn't miss it for the world. That I would drive with our cousin and make a road trip out of it. Last Thursday I got my invitation and when I called to RSVP I asked about the dress code, since my dad told me that she emailed him about a certain color suit and tie so they could coordinate the pictures. She told me that I didn't have to worry about that it's nothing personal, but because I have stretched ears, piercings, and a tattoo on my hand, I don't fit the aesthetic they're going for, so if I come we'll take pictures with just us but I won't be in the pictures. I don't cry often but that made me cry and I told her that if she doesn't want me there I won't go. She didn't say anything and we hung up. On Friday I had lunch with my grandparents and my uncle and told them about it. My grandmother got so upset that she started crying and told me that if I'm not welcome neither are my grandparents. My aunt and her husband and all my cousins RSVP'd no as well, and my brother and parents are thinking about not going as well. Although it means the world that they love me so much I feel awful, like I've ruined my sister's wedding, that I should have kept my mouth shut. Tell me, am I the asshole? Stories number 6. My 15 years old idiot kid got his GF pregnant on purpose. Things have gone south even further at this point. Husband and I have been blocked on all social media and numbers blocked, but the communication with Ollie has continued. Ollie gave us Bree's parents' email address to send an email to, but before using that I asked him to video chat Bree with me there, and then I could ask Bree to please get her parents so I can talk to them about this and tell her that if they were going to continue to refuse then I would be blocking all contact to Ollie and communication until this is resolved. I told Ollie this before the call. At first he flipped out about it, but it was this or I cut communication completely. I do think he understood that it is not okay that her parents are speaking to me through minors, and he said himself he would like us to talk to each other. Bree joined the call and hung up when she saw I too was there. Ollie called back a few times and she didn't answer. She asked via text why I wanted to talk to her, and Ollie told her that I wanted to speak to her mother, and if we didn't resolve the communication issue then all contact would be ended until her parents made contact with us and we make a plan for the next few months, including DNA, and then birth arrangements. Said that if the baby is his we will travel there for the birth and first few weeks after. He told her that I personally think it probably is his baby, but I want to be sure and make sure everything is done right from the start. Well, Bree blocked him with a reply, and he is totally heartbroken, not eating, sitting in his room all day and night, not mad at me surprisingly, very, very sorry for him and to us, sad about it all and I think regretful. He even asked me if there was a way to undo it for himself. I haven't talked about signing over rights, male abortion, his father called it, because I think he's just upset right now. A mutual friend of Bree and Ollie's here in our hometown showed him a few posts she has made in the last 24 hours. Things like, "It's you and me against the world baby girl," and memes about deadbeat dads. She also announced the pregnancy, which she hadn't done yet, and the post had some single mother facts and quotes. Ollie's friends knew about the situation, and a few were under the impression he had dumped her and the baby, going by the posts, but when he explained that what had happened, they all rallied for him in the comments. I said not to, and now she's blocked them, and we can't see what she has posted. This is just a nightmare. I have had a plan personally, not set but something I wanted to talk to her parents about, but I don't even want to waste my time at this point. Ollie gave us Bree's parents' email address to send an email to with said plan. Basically, Bree does DNA blood test. We will pay the full $1,500 for it. If it is his baby we can book flights and plan to be there for the first month. I'll stay too with Ollie, maybe even the whole family, and then we can also work on a parenting plan and getting into mediation for a judge to sign off on it. Ollie's father and I spilt for the first 7 months of his life, so we have done this before and we know the process. But at this point I think I will just leave it to settle before sending an email, edited for update, to answer some question. She is due September around the 22nd. So no, there is no option for abortion. I don't think that or adoption ever was. Ollie admitted it was on purpose last night. Apparently, it was Bree's idea first, as a joke, that turned into a plan together. Bree's parents will only pass messages through my son, and I have heard this for myself. I stood outside the door and listened to them tell him, "Tell you mother, insert info below," because I know I will just go off on her about that bullshit still. They are talking shit about me with my kid. They are appalled I would think that way of Bree when I have known her for more than half her life and do not wish to talk to me. I will not allow him to move out there alone. There are some past issues such as Bree breaking up with him twice in the last 18 months because she found someone that she liked more her new town, around August and October last year, same boy, and when it ended, she came back to Ollie. Bree is a nice girl but her behavior is toxic and has been since a child. Her mother and stepfather are nice but the relationship is unstable, the house is chaos, 9 children combined, blended family and 2-3 teens with serious mental health struggles. He would be leaving stability for chaos and no structure. I want a DNA test, I will not budge on that. I am close to cutting his contact totally at this point because they are only empowering him and reinforcing his behavior towards me and his father. His father is a man of few words, which is unhelpful. So far he's backed everything I have said and only really chosen to say, "You have the intelligence of a pair." Throwaway for obvious reasons. I 30F have a child who is 15M, we'll call him Ollie, plus other children aged 2, 6, 9 and 11. As you can tell by my own age I was teen parent. I was lucky and we married at 18, still married, healthy relationship, worked our way out of a very dire situation, graduated, started a trade etc., and we are comfortable, stable in all ways. This information is relevant. Ollie has been friends with this girl, we'll call her Bree, since he was 7 years old. Their family used to live in the same city as us and went to the same school, same friendship group. We know her parents and are long-distance friends ourselves, not close friends but say hello when the kids are on video chat, had drinks together before. Bree's family moved to a very small town 3 states away due to rental affordability. No secret, we all have talked about the rising costs of everyday life. The cost of living in this city has risen, forcing many locals out. They moved because of that and for better job opportunities 18 months ago. Since then, Ollie has been begging for us to follow, giving us a sales pitch on cheaper housing, better paying jobs, none of which fit either of our professions, the whole works. We have said no because well, no, but even if we wanted to, our other children are in school, sports, and have friends here. Selling and buying another house, finding work outside of our skill set or having to learn new skills, any normal adult would understand this, he does not. Well, fast forward to Christmas. Bree's family come back to our city for a holiday and the kids met up multiple times with each other. It was my understand that they were always with the other kids, but obviously not since Bree is pregnant, and I am certain it was on purpose. He has access to condoms. I don't care for opinions on that, my access was restricted and I had him. He has had sex ed from me, my husband, school. He knows damn well how babies are made and how not to have one. Ollie now wants me to move to be with her and the baby. It's confirmed. I've talked to her parents, and I said no, I don't feel I need a reason, but he asked, "You're 15. We don't have any proof that you're child yet. I'm not moving us away from our lives and you aren't going alone until you're 18. We will do a DNA test, then we will look at parenting plans," and topped it off with a "too bad, too sad. You made your bed, now you have to sleep in it." He took that back to Bree and now all communication between me and her parents has been cut. I'm a terrible person. My comments about the DNA test are disgusting and it's fueling my son's hate for me. He says I am keeping him from the love of his life and future baby, using my own successful relationship as proof it will work out. I actually don't even know if I am right or not. I'm just really upset and feel like my life I worked really hard for has been destroyed. Stories number 7. I, 26F, broke my wrist and my husband, 28M, won't help me out with driving. Where do I go from here? A couple days ago I was doing yard work and I tripped and fell and broke my wrist. It's in a cast and will be for at least 4 weeks. I work full-time in person about 30 minutes away from home. I took the last 2 days off from work, but I need to go back on Monday. I can't drive my car because it is stick shift and the wrist I broke is on the arm I use to shift. I can't grab the shifter to change gears, so I can't drive it. My husband drives an automatic and while it wouldn't be the greatest thing, I could drive it. I asked him if he would mind switching cars with me until I am able to shift gears again. He said no because he doesn't like driving my car. I taught him how and he's used it before, he just doesn't like it. So I asked if he would drive me to and from work, at least a few times per week. He also said no because he doesn't want to wake up early. He works 3 shifts per week in the evenings. I would be home with his car before he had to leave for work. He would also have time to drive me home from work without being late for work. I am also the breadwinner and we need the money I make from working. He told me I should just Uber, but it would be at least $60 per day and I can't afford that. I feel unsupported. I get the situation sucks, but a couple years ago when his car wasn't working, I let him use my car. He worked more back then, 5 days per week. So I let him use it to go to work and also to go out with friends and stuff. So I feel I am not being reciprocated. He doesn't owe me for that, but also he isn't willing to help me out with this, and the inconvenience for letting me use his car is much less for him because he'd be sleeping when I was using it. Where do I go from here? Am I asking or expecting for too much? Update, I, 26F, broke my wrist and my husband, 28M, won't help me out with driving. Where do I go from here? I got a lot of advice on my last post. Some helpful, some not. A lot of people slammed him for not working more. I want to clear that up. He was working the same amount of hours as I was. Sometimes more. But his hours got cut at work. He's been looking for a new job or second one, but hasn't had much luck. I know he has been looking and putting in effort. That's not an issue, but I sat down with him and said that we really need to talk about this, because I had to go to work today, Monday. I sat down and told him I get he is having a hard time with his hours being cut and trying navigate the job market. But I have a good job and I need to get there. And I can't afford to Uber a car while I heal. We need to find a solution. He kept talking in circles with the same reasons I mentioned in the last post. I don't know exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, that is not good enough for me. I don't accept those reasons and I don't think they're true. What is the actual reason? We are married and partners, why am I left hanging like this? He finally told me the truth. Since his hours got cut, he hasn't been maintaining his car. He had savings and maintained his car when he worked more, but when his hours got cut, he started using his savings to pay his part of the bills. And when it ran low, he finally let me readjust our spending. I pushed for it from the start, but he refused. But when his savings ran low, his car started having problems and he couldn't afford to fix it. He needs new tires. He needs new brakes. The AC stopped working. And he also is well overdue for an oil change. He used to keep up with this stuff, but hasn't because he is low on money. He was ashamed and didn't want me to use his car or ride in it because he didn't want me to know how bad it was. He was embarrassed, so he never brought it up. So he has been driving an unsafe car and didn't want me to drive it. After a very long talk, we came to a solution. I will buy him used tires. They need to be done, but can wait a week as we look and get this set up. Yesterday we replaced the brake pads and do an oil change. I couldn't physically help, but I read him steps and look at things when he wasn't sure. His dad also helped over FaceTime. Between our brains, we figured it out. We decided not to mess with the AC because that's a comfort thing and not necessary, especially during this time of year. So in all, he was having a private struggle I wasn't aware of. I usually don't go in his car, so I never noticed. And this morning, he drove me to and from work. And either he will drive me or I will drive myself, with his permission. Depends on the day. I knew he was struggling with the lack of income and I have been pushing and pushing for him to let me do more. But he held out due to pride. And his car suffered. And honestly, I think I might do the same thing. I still feel a bit betrayed and the trust has eroded a bit. But at the same time, I also feel like I got closer to him. It's a weird feeling I can't fully explain. But in the end, I can get to work with his help. Stories number 8. Me, 35M, with my wife, 29F, of 5 years wants a divorce after I requested a paternity test. I met my wife through a mutual friend. We were friends for a year or so before we both became single and decided we were compatible enough to date. We were together 2 years before we got married. I do not know what got into me. My wife is loyal, faithful, but I had been reading statistics about how many men are raising children that aren't their own and had absolutely no idea around the time she found out she was pregnant. We both wanted children, we weren't actively preventing it. About 3 months in, I couldn't take it anymore and told her I wanted a paternity test. She asked me if I was accusing her of cheating. I said yes. She asked me why, and I couldn't answer her. Neither of us has ever cheated or been cheated on. She works very hard, long hours at her job, but has always let me know where she is, who she will be with. If she was going somewhere with friends, I was always welcomed. I do not know why I did this, and it's tearing me up. She told me she'd gladly give me my paternity test, but that she was moving back to her mother's until that time because she didn't know if she wanted to continue the marriage. She got an amniocentesis test at about 20 weeks. I'm the father, and when she told me, I was so happy. But she wasn't. She told me that she felt like she fell out of love with me the minute I asked her and that she had no desire to reconcile. Our daughter was born July 10th. My wife has gone through a lawyer and has started through the motions of divorce and issues of custody. She has since gotten her own apartment. She said she wants to keep this as amicable as possible for the sake of our daughter, but I just want to be a family. She doesn't want support or alimony because she makes more than enough to cover herself and our daughter's needs and live a comfortable life. It's taken since February to even get her to soften her stance and even think about counseling. She said she loves me, but she isn't sure she can get over this. Now I'm trying to think of how to fix this, and I'm just such a broken mess. I want to prepare a list to talk about on Monday at counseling, but I just can't think of anything but apologizing, and that hasn't made a difference in the past months. I don't think it would now. TLDR, didn't suspect wife of infidelity, but paranoia made me ask for a paternity test. After months of separation, she's agreed to counseling. What can I do to fix this? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. WTF. No reason to think she cheated, not one iota. Did you think aliens impregnated her? I'd find it hard to overlook that too. Reply. We were sexually active, so I did know that there was a good likelihood I was the father. I just couldn't shake that little voice that told me I might not be. Update. I got to sit down with my wife during my visit with my daughter while she was napping. She says that this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Here is why she went nuclear, as a lot of people said. As much as this hurt, I needed to hear it. I had trouble trusting her our whole relationship, despite the fact she had never cheated on me or any exes. She's caught me snooping through her phone, email, work laptop before, and because she deals with privileged information, she says I open her up to liabilities with her clients. No, I have never found anything incriminating. She has never hidden anything except work-related things because of confidentiality. Her bank accounts, credit card information, phone records were always open to me because she's caught me snooping before and she wanted to assuage my fears. I had recently installed Tinder on my phone and she had caught me on OkCupid 6 months ago. Her best friend sent her my profile, so the thinks that this is me projecting. She got upset about the hypocriticalness of it all, while she had to be fully open to me, but she says I never showed her the same courtesy and always bitched at her about my privacy. I had my phone passcode, I would get upset if she did the same, and I'd get angry with her if she went into my computer email for any reason, even if it was bill related. She said what really made her not want to work on it was some of the following. She felt no support from me at all before the test. She would come over every other day and talk to me, but I was cold to her and that she tried to work on it in the beginning. She said my aloofness made her not care. I refused to help her cover the copay for the amniocentesis. She said this was pettiness that made her feel this way, but she was going to get an amniocentesis test anyway because she's paranoid about birth defects and her insurance didn't deem it medically necessary. I went on a few dates after she moved out and she found out. She considered it cheating because she had been attempting to work on our marriage at that point, and had even made counseling appointments, that I refused to attend until she got the paternity test. I didn't remember about this and didn't include it in my last post. She said she's willing to work on the marriage, but she said that it has to be as open both ways and she isn't willing to move back in with me right away. I have to give her the passcode to my phone and delete Tinder. I do not want to give her the passcode to my phone because I think I deserve my privacy. Her other condition is personal therapy as well as the couple's counseling. I don't want to do this either, because as many of you have pointed out that there's nothing wrong with wanting to be sure. TLDR, I spoke with my wife. She is willing to work on the marriage, but with conditions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I am shocked you posted an update. Your original post included nothing that would help us understand her decision. Frankly, you sound completely out of touch with reality. I can't imagine why she's willing to work on this marriage. Let her go. For her sake. Reply. She hadn't told me. She was keeping contact minimal besides allowing me to see our daughter, but she wasn't opening up to me about how she felt. Commenter 2. Wow, I can't believe the shit you did to her, and she is still willing to work on things. You, sir, need counseling and a swift kick to the ass. Reply. She said she's willing to because of our daughter, but if it was her alone, she wouldn't. Commenter 3. You left out the stuff about being protective of your mobile devices, having a Tinder profile and going on dates yesterday. You deserve your privacy. You are a piece of work. Or a troll. For God's sake, get help and put all this energy into being a good dad. Don't be so fucking self-involved and selfish. Reply. I didn't go on any dates until after she left. Commenter 4. You don't go on dates when you want to stay in a marriage. Update. I realize now that I'm not exactly someone you want to sympathize with, and I'm sorry. I do love Marissa and want to be a better husband and father, but I will not get that chance. In therapy, our therapist had us lay everything out on the table, and I admitted that I was an unfair hypocrite. She admitted that she's happier without me, despite being a single mother for all intents and purposes. We attempted to talk it through, with her laying out her terms to re-enter the marriage. I feel I did not cheat on her because she left me with no discussion of terms. She feels I cheated because we were still married and actively discussing her eventually rebuilding her trust in me and moving back home. We agreed to try another therapy session, but Tuesday morning she canceled it and she filed for divorce. We had dinner that night. She told me she was sorry, but she didn't think it would work because her trust at this point was irrevocably broken. I told her it was okay. We sat down and talked about visitation until she leaves in January, when she will be moving to her home state with an opportunity that grants her more money and better benefits, including on-site daycare. She told me she harbors no hard feelings towards me, but she wishes it hadn't ended this way. I told her it didn't have to, but she disagreed and said it did. I told her I'd give her access to my phone and such, but the fact that I did that to her left a sour taste in her mouth about it, and she doesn't want a relationship where it's considered normal to not share rifle through the other person's things for no reason, as she put it. We agreed on child support, and we will get it in writing. I make a comparable amount to what she will be making, so we agreed to split baby's expenses. Baby will be on her insurance. I gave her a check for the amount for the amino. Anything else we can think of? I know there's no chance of getting my wife back now, but how can I be a good dad to baby long distance? We talked about me eventually moving to be in proximity. She made sure to emphasize for baby, that we will not be getting back together, but I'm locked into a contract until next December at least. TLDR, wife pulled the divorce trigger. How can I be a good dad to my child long distance? Stories number 9. Aita for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday. I miscarried yesterday afternoon about 12 p.m. I've never had a miscarriage before and this baby was so wished for, so it's all so fresh and I'm sobbing right now, so I apologize in advance if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My husband turned 27 yesterday. I 26F was pregnant with mine and my husband's 27M second child. Yesterday, I was 8 weeks pregnant. The day before yesterday we saw a beautiful heartbeat flicking on the screen and today I'm devastated. I was playing with our 2-year-old when I felt a pressure in my lower abdomen. Not long later, I noticed bleeding and I let my husband know immediately that I had discomfort and bleeding. Before long I had passed what I believe is the fetus and I messaged him, I think I lost the baby. I wanted to keep him updated and I guess I was seeking some kind of emotional support. I asked if he could come home and he said, of course, if it's urgent. I said I think it is because the pain and bleeding is getting worse and I'm starting to feel lightheaded and our 2-year-old is unattended in his playroom right now. We have no friends or family near that I could call who would get to us quicker than he could. I had to clean myself up, crawl downstairs to take paracetamol, make my son his lunch and then put him down for a nap. At this point my husband still isn't home. He was working approximate 30 minutes away and took closer to 60 minutes to get back. Hours later when I asked, it was because he'd stopped at Tesco to pick up some beers. I ended up very poorly, losing lots of blood, lightheaded, vomiting etc. and he had to take me to A&E. By the time I was discharged it was almost 8 p.m. Last week, I had said I'd make him his favorite dinner for his birthday which he reminded me when we were almost home. I said I wasn't feeling up to it and that whatever takeaway he wants is on me. He said, for fuck's sake, under his breath and then muttered something along the lines of, this bullshit has ruined my birthday. He didn't stop to get any takeaway. He just drove straight home. He put our son to bed and I went to bed and I'm not sure what he did after. I didn't see him this morning as he had already left for work. He's not messaged me all day and he got home a few hours ago, it's now 8:40 p.m., and he's been giving me silent treatment. I tried to speak to him about an hour or so ago and he ignored me and I called him a disgrace. He slammed the bedroom door and locked me out of the bedroom. His mum has since messaged me and said I need to be patient as he's also had a loss. She didn't ask how I was or anything. He's obviously speaking to his mum but why isn't he opening up and speaking to me? She said I was harsh. I'm feeling utterly emotionally neglected right now. My body has been through emotional and physical hell. I understand that my miscarriage came at a fucking inconvenient time for him as it was his birthday and all. I'm not sure if it's the hormones making me feel crazy but is it nuts to contemplate divorce? Aita for calling him a disgrace. Update, Aita for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday. A kind Reddit user informed me that this is the best way to do an update, rather than adding a comment to my previous post so hopefully this reaches the right people. I should have clarified in my original post from last week that the way my husband responded was completely out of character for him. He's usually a caring and supportive man and is a good husband and father. The only incident where he's shown any kind of red flags was when I put together an accent chair. I used a screwdriver to attach the legs to the seat, and when he came home from work and saw that I'd done it myself, he jumped on it until it broke to show that I didn't do it properly and that I should have waited for him to come home. He'd been under lots of stress at work so I asked him to go to therapy, which he did, instead of pulling the divorce card straight away. We have been together for 7 years in May and is the only partner I've ever known. My family all love him and have accepted him from day one. I also should have clarified, yes, I know he was an AH in the scenario, I wasn't questioning that. What I was questioning was whether I took it a step too far in calling him a disgrace. He's going through a lot at work at the moment, it was his birthday, I'd been messaging him and telling him that I'd miscarried his child and he had to leave work early and then I called him a disgrace after he'd taken me to the hospital and was responding to the grief in his own way. I think the majority of people said I was NTA in this scenario and due to his behavior that my insult was justified. Thank you to everyone who reached out, checked in, offered condolences and emotional support. I've read all my messages and tried to read most of the comments. Most of them have been very kind and useful and have helped a lot over the past few days. I had a scan yesterday which confirmed that everything has passed successfully. Some people may remember that I was very worried about retained tissue due to my fever over the weekend. Also, my tonsillitis has fully cleared up so I'm feeling almost back to normal, physically. I left my husband. Me and my son are staying with family in a different part of the country so we are safe and are managing. My husband did get very angry when I told him that I was leaving him. He tried to stop me from leaving with our son, put hands on me and threatened to end his life. My mum intervened and like I said, we are safe. I have some time off work now so I will continue to take time to recover emotionally and plan my next steps. Thank you if you've read this far. I doubt there will be any more updates after this. New updates. Hi, I'm not sure if anyone remembers but I posted on this app for the first time a while back after I had a miscarriage and my husband said I ruined his birthday. I need to start this off by asking that if anyone takes the time to comment, please do not leave negativity or insults as I'm extremely emotionally vulnerable and I truly feel terrible. When I updated about 5 weeks ago, I didn't think I'd have to make another update but in short, I'd left my husband and he'd forcibly tried to keep me in the house by putting his hands around my neck. It was really frightening and in that moment made me feel completely confident in my decision to leave. Since that day, I haven't had any contact with my husband. As I was leaving, he was screaming that he'd kill himself if I left. It's not the first time he's threatened this in our relationship, but I called his mom once I was in the car to let her know. She said she'd go over to see him and I didn't hear from her for another week or so. About 2 weeks ago, my husband was found dead in our family home. I'm angry, hurt, devastated, relieved and most of all guilty. I feel so guilty that he's dead. If I hadn't have left, I'm certain he'd still be alive. But I can't be certain that I would be, or that our son would be. I don't know. I don't know how much sense I'm making. I just know that there were some people worried for mine and my son's safety. Please be kind. Please reach out to loved ones or local services if you're struggling. Comments. Commenter 1. This is so sad. His death was not your fault. You did the right thing, 100%. Commenter 2. I can't say this enough. It is not anybody else's fault. OP, it was not your fault. It was not your fault. Please keep repeating this to yourself. I am so sorry for your loss as well, because it is a lot to go through in just so little time. I don't have the right words for it. I also don't think the right words exist. A digital hug from across the world. Commenter 3. Exactly this. When someone threatens self-harm in an abusive dynamic, it's a manipulation designed to control. OP, please remember, you made the courageous choice to protect yourself and your child. Stories number 10. Aita for refusing to take in my son's half-brother after CPS removed him from my ex and her family offered me anything to take the child. I, 28M, have a 5.5-year-old son with my ex Becca, 27F. I had primary custody of my son after Becca and I broke up, and when he was 2 she lost all her parenting time after numerous issues where our son was in danger of being harmed and or was neglected in her home. Becca has not seen our son since I was given sole custody. She had the chance to change that but never took it. Becca's family were really kind when the custody issue was ongoing, and they even spoke against Becca maintaining visitation because they knew it was better for my son. Fast forward, and last year Becca had another son with the guy she was with when she lost all her visitation with our son. They had this child in their care for several months, but at some point some kind of abuse became apparent and he was removed by CPS earlier this year. When it happened, Becca's parents and her sister called to tell me about it. I thanked them for the information, thinking it was valid to keep on record in case we had another custody battle. But a week later Becca's mom, her sister, and her brother called and asked me why I hadn't talked to CPS about taking in Becca's younger son. We had a discussion and it became clear to me that they had expected me to run out and ask for the child to be placed with me. They told me he's my son's brother, even if half, and the boys should be raised together. And throughout the different times they have brought this up to me, I was told they would support us financially to help me raise both boys. Each and every time they have mentioned it I have said no, and I reduced contact between us when they wouldn't stop bringing this up. They asked me how I could let my child's only sibling rot in foster care. And they were even more upset when I refused to look into it even to see if I'd be open. They told me I would not be doing it alone and foster care is evil. I suggested they take him in or get Becca to do better and get her to a place where she could raise him. But I made it clear I would not be raising their other grandson-nephew. Of course this means they think I'm a monster who won't save their grandson. Aita for not taking him, or trying to. Stories number 11. Aita for choosing to live with my ex-stepmom instead of my dad after their divorce. I, 18F, are about to graduate high school, and things have been weird at home for a while, but now everything's kind of blown up and I'm getting a lot of mixed reactions, so I figured I'd post here. My dad remarried when I was 14. His new wife had 2 kids from a previous marriage who were younger than me. From the start, she was polite but cold. Never rude, but definitely distant. She always seemed more relaxed and affectionate with her kids, which hurt, but I figured maybe that was just natural. But whenever I came in the room she stopped laughing and looked at me as if I was a danger of hurting her or her children. For years I felt like I was walking on eggshells around her. I tried being friendly, helping out with her kids, giving her space, etc., but it never felt like I was truly welcome in my own home. It hurt, but I got used to it. But something changed this past year. I don't know exactly what triggered it, but stepmom started acting different. More present. Kinder. She started checking in on me, inviting me to sit with her and her kids more, even standing up for me when my dad would snap or criticize me. And that's when things started to click between us. Turns out, my dad had told stepmom a lot of stuff about me when they first got together, things like I was manipulative, dishonest, moody, lazy, emotionally unstable. Basically made me sound like some troubled, dramatic teenager who couldn't be trusted. I found this out because I overheard them fight about it. She apologized. Said she realized how wrong she'd been and how my dad was constantly nitpicking, belittling, and controlling, and how she never saw it clearly until she started watching how he treated me versus everyone else. They divorced about 2 months ago. My dad expected me to stay with him. Legally I could do whatever since I'm 18. But I told him I wanted to live with stepmom. It caused a whole explosion. He said I was choosing a woman who never even wanted me. That I was turning my back on my real family. His parents, my grandparents, called me ungrateful. Even a few family friends said I was being disloyal and just trying to hurt him. But here's the thing, Dana does want me now. She's apologized, made an effort, and treats me like a human being. She is the one coming to visit my school competitions and helps me whenever I ask her. My dad hasn't taken a real interest in me in years. She listens. She makes space for me. She showed me what it feels like to be safe. So, Aita for choosing to live with my former stepmom instead of my dad. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Turns out, my dad had told stepmom a lot of stuff about me when they first got together. Things like I was manipulative, dishonest, moody, lazy, and emotionally unstable. The thing I don't get is, why did it take her 3 years to figure out this wasn't true when you all lived together? If all those things are lies and she lived with you, wouldn't she notice it's untrue within months? Reply. Throughout most of my high school time I went to a boarding school. I could have come home at the weekends, but because I did feel that unwelcomed at home, I stayed there for most of the year. I only came home at holidays. My senior year, however, I couldn't go back, because my father thought the boarding school would only make me entitled. That I would think of myself better than the rest of the family. But that wasn't true at all. How would he know? My father hasn't taken an interest in me in years. I bet he doesn't even know what sport I like to play or the name of my best friend. He only started to pretend to care when I chose to live with stepmom. Commenter 2, I'm sorry OP, your father honestly sounds like a monster to deal with, like why would he lie about you? What was to gain? Reply, I honestly don't know. And I'm afraid to find out. I can't imagine a good reason for something like that, and I'm afraid if I'm asking him, he will turn things and make me believe him. Or guilt me into coming back. Commenter 3, I'm still not a fan of stepmother TBH, it took her 4 years to realize OP isn't like how her father said she is. At least she's being nicer now. Hopefully you too, and the children if you're interested, can have a decent relationship. Reply, she did apologize for that. But to be honest, it wasn't entirely her fault. After she married my dad I started high school at a boarding school and only came home when necessary because I thought I'm a burden to them and she doesn't want me near her kids. My dad then decided that boarding school would make me entitled, so I had to change school for my senior year. I didn't even get any warning. He first told me, the day I was supposed to go back to boarding school. I think that was when stepmom realized something was up. When she tried talking to my dad about it, saying it wasn't really nice to make me change schools in my last year, I first thought she just really didn't want me to live with them. But it was the time she started to be there for me. I clearly could see that she was still cautious about me and held her distance. Still, she asked me if I wanted the car to meet with new friends. She told me to invite them over, so I could make friends at my new school, and even came with my step-siblings to school events. Dad didn't like that and tried to gaslight us both again. The difference was because we did talk to each other now, we recognized the lies. That's when stepmom decided she couldn't trust him and started the divorce. In the end, him taking away my school, he made sure his lies got discovered. Where is OOP's biological mother? Reply, my bio mom died when I was 10. I remember dad being different with her still there. But maybe I just romanced the time because I wanted him to be. Is OOP's father supporting her financially and for college, too? Reply, no, there is a college fund made for me when I was a baby by my grandparents. Update. Hi again. I honestly didn't expect my post to get the attention it did, but thank you to everyone who offered support, advice, or even just validation. Reading your comments helped me feel a little less alone in all of this. I wanted to give an update, especially since some people asked if my dad ever tried to explain himself. He did. After I moved in with my ex-stepmom, things were quiet for a few weeks. Then, last week my dad asked to meet. I agreed, hoping maybe this would be a turning point, that he'd acknowledge the way he treated me and maybe even apologize. But instead, I got a whole different kind of explanation. He told me that he was still in love with my mom, who passed away when I was 10, and that he had never truly moved on. He said that after she died, he felt like he lost not just his wife, but a piece of himself. He admitted that he married stepmom not out of love, but because he thought building a new family would help him fill the void. But it didn't. And instead, he grew bitter and angry, and started taking it out on everyone. On stepmom, on her kids, on me. And then he said something that completely shattered me. He said he never wanted her to bond with me, because if she did, it would feel like my mom was being erased. That he couldn't handle the idea of me loving someone else in a mother role. That every time he saw stepmom and I getting along, it felt like I was letting go of my mom and replacing her, which is just not true. I will always love my mom. Nothing could ever change that. But I also deserve to have people in my life who care about me now. People who show it. Stepmom has done that. She's trying, and she's here. When I asked him if he realized how much he'd hurt me, how he'd changed from the dad I remembered, he didn't deny it. But he also didn't apologize. He just said he was dealing with his grief the only way he knew how, and that I should respect that. He told me stepmom was taking me away from him, and that I had replaced my mom. He said, word for word, you chose her over your real mother's memory. I walked out. I don't think I will talk to him again unless he does apologize and changes his ways. I'm still processing all of this. I'm trying to hold space for the version of my dad who was kind, who tucked me in at night and made waffles on Saturdays. But I'm also not going to pretend the last few years didn't happen. Grief isn't an excuse for cruelty. And choosing peace and love now isn't a betrayal of the past. Stepmom's not perfect, but she's trying, and for now, this feels like the healthiest place for me to be. We're rebuilding something strange and new, but it feels more real than anything I've had in years. I don't know what the future holds with my dad. But I know this, I'm allowed to be loved. And I'm allowed to choose it, wherever I find it. Thanks again, Reddit. Relevant comments. OOP responds to a deleted comment regarding the first post. Reply, because I didn't post the first post after I moved in with stepmom. I have already lived with her since the divorce 2 months ago. I met my dad yesterday for the first time since then. I put it off for so long, because I was afraid he would be able to guilt me into coming back. The post I did last week gave me courage to go through with it. OOP on her ex-stepmother being her bonus mom. Reply, bonus mom, I like that. She really does kind of feel like one. Commenter 1, NTA. Grief isn't an excuse for cruelty. And choosing peace and love now isn't a betrayal of the past. You couldn't have put better, what a shitty father. Commenter 2, stepmom didn't replace your mom. Sounds like she replaced your dad. Stories number 12. Aita for getting married before my soon-to-be sister-in-law. First off, just wanna say I have been watching your crazy wedding stories for a while now and never dreamed I'd be posting love you Charlotte. This situation has been weighing on me, and I need an outside perspective. My husband, John, and I got married last year, and ever since, there's been tension with my soon-to-be sister-in-law, Danelle. Here's the backstory. Last Christmas, Danelle and Connor, John's brother, got engaged but waited until New Year's Eve to announce it. I thought it was odd to hold off, but I was happy for them and excited to help with anything she might need. I really thought we were becoming friends. Fast forward to New Year's Eve, and I find out that John had told his parents he wanted to propose to me that night. Apparently, his parents shared that with Connor and Danelle, who then decided to use the same occasion for their engagement announcement instead. When I found out, I was hurt, but I tried to let it go. John proposed a few months later, and we decided to elope on a beautiful mountaintop. I've never wanted a big wedding, I don't have a great relationship with my father, and we didn't want to step on Connor and Danelle's toes since their wedding was coming up. We even asked them if it would bother them if we got married before them, and they said it was completely fine, as there was almost over a year before theirs. Here's where things started getting weird. Danelle never congratulated me on our engagement, and she's been distant ever since she got engaged. She didn't want help with any wedding planning and didn't include me or our other sister-in-law, John and Connor's sister, in anything. My husband is Connor's best man, but Danelle doesn't want him to give a speech or throw a bachelor party, even though she's going on a destination bachelorette trip. To make things worse, she's been bullying me online. She knows I've been struggling with postpartum depression and the loss of my grandmother, and after I went no contact with her she started mailing things to our house only addressed to John and our kids, seemingly purposely leaving me off. Most recently, she told my mother-in-law that my oldest son would be their ring bearer. She never discussed this with me and even previously told me she didn't want kids in the wedding because she thought it would be too much for me. At this point, I'm wondering if this all stems from me and John getting married before them. Am I the asshole for not waiting longer, or is there something else going on here? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, if she's bullying you online, print it all and present it in front of the entire family. Say you've tried to discuss it privately but her blatant disrespect at a vulnerable time in your life is extremely triggering, therefore, it's now a family matter. See how happy as a clam she is afterwards when everyone sees her true colors. Reply, me and my sister-in-law have brought this to my in-laws but she was told to get over it, and I was told that's how Danelle is, but she loves us and would do anything for us. Commenter 2, ring bearer, did she ask your DH? Or just announced it to MIL? Not happening if she can't be bothered to ask the parents of the boy. Will your boy be old enough to handle the job? Will it be the real ring he's bringing, or a prop faux ring? I've read stories where the ring bearer is too young for the job, plays around and loses the real ring. That would be a nightmare. I'd just block her if she's bullying you online. Nothing says you have to be a doormat in the interests of family must be buds online and hang together. Reply, she just announced to MILBC she and my husband have never gotten along. Also he is a toddler so possibly. Does OOP's husband get along with Danielle? Reply, she's marrying my husband's brother. He hasn't liked her since BL brought her home. I actually used to advocate for her until this mess. Who is the oldest in OOP's husband's family? Reply, my husband is the oldest. Commenter 3, the only way to win is not to play. Block her everywhere. Do not let your son be in her wedding. Be cordial when you have to see her but no need to be friendly. I would also go very limited contact with MIL. She sounds awful. Reply, this has been my approach. She is blocked on everything including texts, but she just doesn't seem to be letting up. When I blocked her on everything is when she started sending mail and gifts to my kids. That has also crossed my mind about MIL. OOP on if she has been invited to the wedding. Reply, no formal invitation has been sent yet, still a few months away from their wedding. But I'm going on the assumption I am. That thought has definitely crossed my mind about being sat near the bathroom and me leaving. I told my husband that he is more than welcome to stay and celebrate his brother but I will be leaving. Me and John also discussed if the invitation comes addressed to just him and the kids we will just RSVP for one and I will happy stay home. Update 1. So, my husband John, his brother Connor, their grandfather, and father were supposed to meet up to pay for the suits for the wedding. It was also supposed to be a chance for the guys to talk without me or Danelle, my soon-to-be SIL, around. But Connor just didn't show up. No call, no text, nothing. To top it off, the suits ended up being double the original price. Aggravating, but at this point, what can you do? As for my MIL, even though I've already told her I'm not going to Danelle's bridal shower because of how I've been treated, she's now trying to guilt me into going by asking me to bring great-grandma to the shower. My other sister-in-law is also being left out. MIL just texted her the dates she needs to request off for the wedding, which is on a holiday, without asking if she could even make it. Any of her questions about what to wear or other details have been completely ignored. And the kicker. My other sale just took her Christmas tree down this week, and guess what she found? Danelle had hidden an ornament on the tree that was clearly meant as a dig at both of us. I'm sure more drama is coming as the wedding gets closer, but I'm just over it at this point. Thanks for all the support and advice on my last post, it's really helped me navigate this mess. Me and SIL are planning a day trip with the kids the day of the wedding. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, why is your husband and in-laws okay with this? Reply, my husband isn't okay with it, and has made it known. My in-laws on the other hand love to pretend to be completely clueless even though I've spoken to them directly about the issues. Commenter 2, is Connor, by chance, the golden child? Reply, seems to be. What was on the ornament that OOP's SIL, not Danielle, found? Reply, okay so it's just a stupid quote on an ornament and her bullying me online started with the same quote. She also got one for MIL that she gave her on Christmas. Why is OOP's husband going to the wedding and is she okay with his decision? Reply, I think he just wants to be there for his brother. I also have encouraged him to not drop from the wedding because I don't not want for years later him to feel like I made him choose me over his family, but that's just me overthinking. Update 2. Hey everyone, here's the third, but probably not final, update to the wedding chaos with my soon-to-be SIL, Danelle. Thanks again to everyone who supported my first 2 posts, you've helped me feel so much less alone in this. So, for anyone who missed my earlier posts, here's the summary of what's happened. I've been dealing with some serious drama surrounding my soon-to-be sister-in-law, Danelle, and her wedding. A little background, Danelle and I were very close for about 4 years. We'd hang out regularly, dinner, movies, even deep conversations. I really considered her a good friend. When she and Connor, my husband's brother, got engaged, I was excited and eager to support her however I could. I was never expecting to be in the bridal party, but I wanted to help with anything else she needed. After Danelle got engaged, however, things changed. When John and I got engaged a few months later, I was completely ignored by Danelle. She didn't congratulate me, and I wasn't included in any wedding planning. Then, John, who's Connor's best man, was told he wouldn't be giving a speech or planning the bachelor party. Danelle was planning a destination bachelorette trip, but she didn't want my husband involved in anything related to her wedding. It felt like she was excluding us at every turn. The situation only got worse when Danelle started bullying me online. I had already been struggling with postpartum depression and grieving the loss of my grandmother, and the constant passive-aggressive comments from her were really taking a toll. After I decided to go no contact with her, Danelle took to sending things addressed only to John and our kids, pointedly leaving me out. Then, Danelle told my MIL that my oldest son would be the ring bearer, without ever discussing it with me. This is after she'd told me she didn't want kids in the wedding because it would be too much for me. It felt like she was going out of her way to be dismissive and disrespectful. Meanwhile, my other sister-in-law, Kay, was being treated just as poorly. She was told, not asked, to take off time for the wedding, and all her questions about attire or wedding details were completely ignored. Kay even found an ornament on her Christmas tree that Danelle had hidden there, clearly meant as a dig at both of us. After that, Kay and I had planned to take the kids out for a day trip during the wedding to avoid the drama. But when I confirmed that my kids wouldn't be in the wedding, Danelle suddenly told Kay that she'd be the keeper of the rings, so that plan was cancelled. After pressure from her parents, here's where things got even more frustrating. My father-in-law came over to our house and tried to guilt us into bringing the kids to the wedding. Even though we had made it clear that we weren't going to be involved in the wedding like that, he wouldn't take no for an answer. My husband, John, finally had to shut him down and told him outright to stop kissing Danelle's ass. Honestly, I was proud of him for standing up for me, but it just made me realize how deep this whole thing goes. Throughout all of this, we've been begging for basic wedding information, especially after being left out of planning and communication. We asked multiple times for things like the dress code, wedding schedule, and other details, and the response was always a shrug. At one point, John had to ask for the wedding address, times, speech expectations, and other logistical details because, we just weren't given any of that. It was getting absurd. I couldn't even buy a dress for the occasion because less than a month I still didn't know the attire. Now finally I was able to order it and it will be here 4 days before the wedding, so fingers crossed it fits woozy face. Then, again with the wedding now less than a month away, John was expected to throw together a bachelor party at the last minute, and, on top of that, he was also supposed to write a best man speech for a brother he barely knows and a woman he can't stand. The emotional labor being dumped on him is honestly ridiculous. So, we've decided that we'll go to the wedding, but there's a condition. John has promised that if we attend, we will go no contact with his family until New Year's, and then we'll reevaluate. I'm pregnant with baby number 3 right now, and after experiencing a miscarriage during Thanksgiving, I just can't deal with all this stress anymore. I'm emotionally drained and trying to protect my peace for the sake of my family. I'll update again if anything else happens, but at this point, we're just getting through it. Thanks again for all the support, it's honestly helped me more than you know. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I think for your own mental well-being, you and your husband should refrain from going to the wedding at all. I don't understand why you are putting yourselves through it when Danelle obviously dislikes both of you and doesn't want you there. She will create drama and make the whole event insufferable for you both. Why do you want to go? Reply, I have brought this up to my husband a few times now. I think he feels terrible that he'd be letting his brother down who's never really asked him for anything before this. But I agree, I'm only going to support my husband and Kay and we will be leaving as soon as speeches are done. Commenter 2, it sounds like Danielle was just trying to get into you and your family's good graces until she got the ring on her finger. I'm sure you and John getting married before her was a factor, but if she changed after her engagement instead of yours, she was just showing who she really was, since she's also excluding Connor's other siblings. I would like some more information, if possible. What comments was she making about you online? What was the ornament she left on Kay's tree? Why do John and Connor barely know each other? What's Connor's role in all of this? Is he backing all of Danielle's shenanigans or is he entirely in the dark? As for wedding details like the dress code and all of that, is there no wedding planner? A mutual friend in the bridal party? Details listed on the invitation that you could glean from another guest. You and Kay should just honestly drop off the relatives and items your in-laws are pressuring you both to bring and then bounce. Neither of you need the stress, and neither does your husband, and definitely not any of the kids. Reply, I will try my best to answer all those. Within 5 minutes of talking to them about us eloping and if they would be okay with it, she posted a picture quote saying, in my engagement era, and then her and her bridesmaids kept talking about short engagements and such, then it turned into mirroring my Facebook posts, and since all of this started with an in my era post she put one on Kay's tree and gave one to MIL. John and Connor just aren't close, they have nothing in common and don't really talk unless it's at the holidays. Connor has been completely quiet about all of it, so ick how he feels honestly. And invitation? Never received one, keep being told it's in someone's car, every time we ask. When John sent the text telling them if they wanted us there we need the address, attire and other basic information, she responded very passive-aggressively with an accusing tone of we just apparently should have known. What does OOP know about Danielle's background? Is Danielle a golden child in her family? Reply, Danelle actually, from what I understand about her family, is the youngest and only girl but has latched on to my husband's parents after dating his younger brother. Less than a year into the relationship she forced his family to invite her to Mother's and Father's Day stuff that used to be only for their children. How did John get asked to be Connor's best man if they don't have a relationship? Was Connor forced to? Reply, he was third choice after their dad said no. Woozyface, and Connor wasn't allowed to ask his first choice BC of someone else's family drama. Editor's note, OOP has linked a picture of her response likely to her in-laws, FIL specifically, regarding bringing her children to the wedding. Reply, information like the venue, timing, or even the address. It's been really difficult to plan ahead. Even something as simple as the rehearsal being 40 o'clock at the church wasn't clear to us, because as I said we don't even have an address, and it's left me feeling really unprepared. These are important moments, and I want them to go smoothly and feel joyful, but right now, it's been hard to feel included, let alone ready. You'd asked me to reconsider bringing the boys, but after everything, I've decided they won't be attending. The lack of communication has made it nearly impossible to plan for them in any meaningful way, and I don't want to show up with them feeling out of place or overlooked. OOP's husband, John, will be in a tux, and we still have no idea what's expected for me or the boys. Are we supposed to show up in old dress clothes and hope for the best? I don't want to put them or myself in a situation where we feel like an afterthought, especially on a day that's supposed to be a special event for the entire family. I also want to be upfront about how all of this has felt. Given the ongoing tension between Danielle and me, it's hard not to take the late invitation personally. I've tried to give the benefit of the doubt, but it's reached a point where it feels like the boys and I aren't really part of the plan. That's a difficult thing to sit with, and I didn't want to stay quiet about it. We do have a prior commitment on the day of the rehearsal, but we'll do what we can to be flexible. I'm not trying to stir anything up, I just wanted to be honest and hope you can understand where I'm coming from. End of the transcript. Final update. Well, it's official, my husband and I didn't attend the reception. He decided to not be in the wedding photos, and we are now no contact with his family. I promised an update, so here it is. Let me back up. Weeks went by with no invitation. I finally got a 1/3 of an invitation, no envelope, no details. It wasn't even addressed to me. It was slipped to John weeks after everyone else had received theirs. No RSVP card, no formal invite. And when we asked about it, we were told we should have known the details, because it's tradition. But apparently tradition didn't include me, despite the fact that it is tradition to send an invitation to the best man's wife. Things started really unraveling at the rehearsal. They called for all family and bridal party to go into another room to practice a special entrance into the church. I wasn't going to go, but I was ushered in by FIL and Connor. Once inside, it became obvious that every immediate family member was involved in this special entrance and had reserved seating, everyone except me. They lined people up for their entrance and then just left me in an empty room. I could hear everyone laughing and talking in the next room while a woman stood at the door to keep people from going back in. I wasn't even allowed to rejoin the group. I cried in the bathroom, tried to pull myself together several times, and finally just sat by the car until everyone came out. Kay dropped out last minute, for her own reasons, but let's just say she wasn't treated any better. Then came the wedding day. I brought our oldest son with me because our youngest was sick with a fever, and it would have been too much to ask my mom to watch both. When we arrived, my MIL came around greeting guests, smiling and chatting, but walked right past me and our son without saying a word. It was humiliating. And then came the final blow, the family photo list. Turns out, I wasn't on it. Not me, not my son. My husband had to ask if I was supposed to be included. After a pause and some awkward glances, they said I could be, as if it were a favor. I declined. I wasn't going to beg to be in photos with a family that had gone out of their way to make me feel like a stranger. That was what finally made it clear for my husband. He saw it. Really saw it. The exclusion wasn't just in my head. It wasn't accidental. It was repeated, deliberate, and pointed. The photo list sealed it for him. He made the call to go no contact. Not just me, him too. We didn't go to the reception, and we won't be spending another holiday, text thread, or minute playing pretend with people who made it so obvious we aren't welcome. There's so much more I could say, but I'll end with this. If you don't want someone at your wedding, don't invite them. But don't half invite them and then exclude them every step of the way while pretending they're crazy. I was never part of this plan, and honestly, I think they thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. To everyone who followed along, thank you, and your validation meant more than you'll ever know. It helped me stay grounded in reality when gaslighting and passive aggression were trying to rewrite it. We're closing this chapter. We genuinely hope everyone had the day they deserve. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, was there any kind of reaction when you didn't go to the reception? Has he told them he's going NC? Reply, just one text from Mael saying she didn't understand, haven't heard from them since, thank goodness, but I know it's probably coming. OOP explains the tension in her husband's family after she and John got engaged. Reply, I think the tension really started when his parents shared John's engagement plans with Connor and Danelle, and instead of backing off, Danelle went and bought her own ring to get engaged the same night. I honestly think they know it was wrong but don't want to take responsibility, so they've just doubled down. And things only got worse when we didn't wait until 2027 for a big wedding like my Mael suggested. What did Fael think? He seemed like he was trying to include OOP. Reply, he tried to keep the peace but ultimately he's not innocent either since they were a big part of the planning or knew all this was happening. OOP explains what her family thought of her in-laws and Danielle. Reply, my family, especially my mom and brothers, are really upset. They've met my in-laws and Danelle before, and they actually tried to warn me about her a few times because of how she acted around them. They also thought it was strange when she made a bunch of personalized things with my son's name on them before we had announced the name to the family. I had shared it with her because I genuinely believed we were friends. I defended her for 4 years, but at this point, my family is just relieved she won't be at any future family events. What about Kay? Has she gone no contact with the family? Reply, Kay has already been low contact after Christmas, but she's extremely upset by how I was treated as well and is planning on going no contact herself. OOP shares examples of how she was treated by Danielle and her behavior. Reply, Danelle would regularly post thinly veiled, passive-aggressive status updates that clearly referenced things I had shared or said. Whether about parenting, family plans, etc., she never mentioned me by name, but the timing and content made it obvious to anyone who knew the situation. It was a pattern of vague sub-tweets and snide commentary meant to provoke without accountability. Then, at a family barbecue, Kay overheard her openly talking about me to others, mocking and criticizing things I'd said and done. Kay told me afterward, and it confirmed that what was happening online wasn't just in my head. Danelle had been going out of her way to target and belittle me even before my engagement marriage. I am intentionally keeping things vague though because this is a throwaway and I'd like to stay anonymous. That's a really fair question, and honestly, things were fine with my husband's family for the most part, until right before Danelle and Connor's engagement. The turning point came when we didn't go on a family vacation with them. We had just bought our house, and financially it wasn't doable at the time. After they got back, Danelle, the bride, told me straight up that they had all spent time talking about me and my husband. She included herself in that. That was the first real red flag. From there, things changed quickly. My MIL became colder, less friendly. Invitations stopped coming. I started noticing little things, being left out of photos, group chats, conversations. Then once the engagement happened, it felt like everything escalated. It became clear that I was being deliberately excluded. So no, the treatment didn't start off badly. I was treated well, even like family, until we made a personal financial decision that didn't align with their expectations. And once Danelle was in the picture more permanently, it felt like she poured gasoline on whatever resentment was already there. It's one thing to have issues with a new in-law, but watching the rest of the family quietly fall in line and enable it. That's what hurt the most. Stories number 13. Aita for no longer making my colleagues a birthday cake. So I 30F am a chef and have been working at a high-end restaurant for almost 2 years. Since I started, I made it a point to find out when a fellow colleague's birthday was and make them a cake sweet treat to celebrate and then share it with everyone else working. Since then I have made numerous treats at work for birthdays. I have also made them at home and brought them in the next day if I was off or we were closed, along with going out early in the morning on my days off and buying specific treats for one reason or another to drop off before service started. My birthday however was a month ago, and no one at work did a single thing. They knew it was my birthday over the weekend in which we were closed because they all asked me about it the following work week. I was pretty hurt, but let it go and told myself that I wouldn't be making any effort for any more birthdays unless specifically told to by my boss. Now it's someone's birthday tomorrow, which I didn't know about until a colleague emails me saying, "It's birthday tomorrow." That's the whole message. No hello, or how are you, just those 4 words and it rubbed me the wrong way. I worked a semi-solo shift today, everyone else was off and could have organized something and I was very busy as it's prep day today which I do at the start of every week, prepping specific items for other sections to help them get a head start. After a couple of exchanges, I held firm and told them I was too busy tomorrow to do it and I won't be making a cake for anyone anymore for the remainder of the year as no one put any effort into mine this year. They said, okay, fair. Now I feel terrible, and second-guessing whether to make something small at work even though we are incredibly busy tomorrow. Stories number 14. Aita for not telling my girlfriend I'm bisexual. So my girlfriend, 24F, and I, 21M, we're talking about school and our childhoods a few days ago. I originally lived in England but she's always been a Scotland girl, so we were comparing. I was showing her pictures of me and my mates from when we were 16-17 and she noticed that me and one of my friends seemed a little close in some of the pictures, even noticed that I was sitting in his lap in one of them. So she asked me and I just flat out told her, that's my ex, because it didn't seem like a big deal to me, it still doesn't. She got a bit annoyed then and asked me why I hadn't told her about this before. I assumed this she was talking about was my ex and I said that I hadn't really thought about him in a while because we were teenagers and I've moved away since then. She got more annoyed then and said, not that, I mean that you like guys. I got kind of confused then because it's not something I hid from her. She's right, I've never explicitly told her that I'm bi, but I have pins of the flag on several bags. We thirst over male celebrities together. Hell, the night we met I was flirting with her male friend at a pub. This was lighthearted and before we were dating obviously. So anyway, I apologized for not telling her and asked what the big deal was. She's not homophobic by any means, and I didn't understand why she was getting so angry. I told her as such, and she stared at me blankly, appalled, as if I should know. She said didn't like being lied to, which I didn't. She never asked and it never came up. But okay, I get why she was upset at that. It could be seen as hurtful and she's sensitive, we both are, so I understood and apologized. She then said that she couldn't believe I had ever been with a guy and that it was weird. I asked her why it was weird, said that I've seen pictures with her and her exes and that I was okay with it, and she said the ex thing didn't bother her, it's that my ex was a guy. This baffles me more, because again, she's not homophobic, at least I didn't think she was. She asked if I ever thought I was just gay and not bi and I said no, said that I liked girls before I ever knew I liked guys. She said to me she didn't really believe in bisexuality, said that it wasn't a good look for the community or something along those lines. I said well I am one so here's the proof. The argument basically went round in circles at that point until we went to bed. We have really spoken properly since. Whenever I try she interrupts me and tells me that she can't believe I was gay before her and lied about it, which again, not gay, I'm bi, I like girls, I like her. It's so frustrating to me because she won't even hear me out and just tells me she feel betrayed that I lied to her and she thinks I'm just dating her because I don't want to fully commit to being gay. She hasn't broken up with me as of yet, but I feel like she's going to if we keep arguing like this and she won't let me get a word in. Edit. Okay, nothing has happened with the situation because it's the middle of the night and I posted this a few hours ago, but this seems to have blown up a little bit, so I'm going to clarify and clear things up a bit. First of all, those people who think I'm going to give my GF an STD or are convinced I have AIDS or whatever, fuck off. Genuinely I'm sorry, I don't like being mean to people, even over the internet, but far too many of you seem to have this thought. First of all, my GF insisted we both take STI tests before we did anything because she got one from a previous partner and doesn't want that to happen again. Second of all of you convinced that slept around with men and contracted some deadly virus. I have never had traditional sex with a guy. The only guy I've ever been with was first relationship with said ex mentioned in the post, and my only other relationship has been with the woman who took my virginity, which the relationship only lasted a month. So stop. Now to clarify some important things. Yes. I know I should have mentioned I was bisexual to her once we started dating, but truthfully, it didn't even occur to me to. I'm a little airheaded and thoughtless, I'm not very good at communicating with people in general and can be quite thoughtless and annoying. Most of my friends back home are queer and a lot of her are too, from what they all said when I met them for the first time. I've also been told that you can tell I'm bisexual by a lot of people including my own parents. So with all that, it completely didn't occur to me to tell her. I do know though that that isn't really an excuse and that I should have told her immediately in the pursuit of transparency. I am working on my communication skill and knowing when to be more mindful and mention things even if they don't seem important to me. I wasn't trying to hide it, and I wasn't trying to make her guess by leaving little hints here and there. I thought it was obvious so I didn't mention it. Clearly it wasn't and I need to be more mindful. I would never lie to her on purpose to be malicious. You don't do that to people you love. I've been with my girlfriend for almost 6 months. The reason this didn't come up in the beginning of our relationship is because it was quite a whirlwind in the beginning. As in we met in December and 4 days later she began a week stay at my flat, so we moved quite fast. My girlfriend attends university close by as well as having a job, so we maybe get to see each other over the weekend or maybe a Friday day night, but that's about it, so I like making the most of my time with her so we don't talk about serious stuff all that much. People thinking that I'm going to cheat on her think that she thinks I'm going to cheat on her. I hope I've made it clear to her that that isn't something that would happen. I love and adore her so much that it physically hurts when I don't get to see her for over a week. I'm not interested in being with anyone else sexually at all because I'm not in love with anyone other than her. The majority of these comments are calling her homophobic, biphobic and, well, I don't really know what to think about that right now. I need to talk to her properly. She's a very emotional person, which is something I absolutely adore about her, but it does mean when she's angry she lashes out. I need to talk to her about it all, and I need to talk to her friends. I'm not throwing this away if she was just lashing out or being ignorant. She's not an unreasonable person. She only knows about my most recent ex because she was asking about a scar on my forehead and I told her the story, which included her. Yes, she does love me and doesn't care about my sex drive or lack thereof. She's not manipulative or gaslighting me, she is just lets me know when I've done things wrong, which I like because no one else ever tells when I've done things wrong. I'm bisexual. I'm not gay. She's not a beard. I like guys. I like girls. I love her. If I missed anything, it's because it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired. If you want further clarification, comment and I'll try to answer. Update. Okay, wow. I didn't think this would get a lot of attention, but it has, so I figured I'd let everyone know what's going on. This is quite long, so I apologize. I'll put a TLDR at the end for people who don't really care that much. I posted my initial post on Friday night. I hadn't seen or heard from my GF since Tuesday. I sent her the link to this post on Saturday afternoon and told her that once she felt ready, I would like it if she came over so we could talk about it in person. About 3 hours later she was at my flat. She hadn't eaten and it was late, so I cooked and we ate in silence. She didn't really look mad, but she obviously wasn't very happy. Once we'd finished and I'd cleaned up, she told me that she's sorry she has ignored me for 4 days. I told her that it was fine and that she didn't need to apologize as she clearly needed space. I decided to bite the bullet and just get into it. I apologized for not telling her properly, this time. I told her that I shouldn't have assumed she'd just be okay with it because I expected her to. I told her that even if I don't think it's a big deal or that it didn't even cross my mind that I had to tell her, I understood that it was clearly dishonest of me and that I don't really have good excuse of why I didn't. I try to never lie to her, especially about important things, and whilst I don't see it as lying, I now do see that it could be interpreted as that or that I've got things to hide. I told her as such and she told me to stop apologizing. She explained that she'd read my post as well as the comments. I asked what she thought about it. She was quiet for a minute before she told me that she didn't like people calling her homophobic, and that she didn't think she was being that, she just didn't understand how a person could be bisexual. I tried to stay calm cause I could see she was overthinking and getting upset. I told her that I don't think she's homophobic either, not as a whole, anyway, and then I tried to explain it to her simply. I didn't want her to think I was speaking to her like a child, or that I was being condescending, but I did have to use simple terms to make sure there was absolutely no room for misinterpretation. I asked her, but you understand how guys can like girls, and how girls can like guys? And she said yes. I then asked, do you also understand how a woman could like another woman, or how a guy could like another guy? And she said yes again. I asked her then why she didn't think it could be possible to like girls as well as guys. She didn't really say anything and I could see the cogs turning in her head. She said that she couldn't see how you could like both, how humans are hardwired to only like one gender, and so if I was saying that I liked guys first, and, by her logic, I could only be attracted to one gender, then I must be gay. I was very confused because I'm not a scientist by any means, but I definitely know that that isn't true. I asked where she'd heard that. She told me an old friend who she met at her old job was a major LGBTQ activist, and was explaining things to her. I told her that's not right. She told me it was. I asked what possible evidence she could have for that. She didn't have any, but she said that this friend was deep into the queer community, sexuality. I didn't ask, and that I'm not really involved, so she's more inclined to believe this old friend rather than me. I was hurt, of course, really hurt that she'd say this, but I couldn't get mad, cause then we'd both be mad and upset, and we'd be in exactly the same place we were 5 days ago. So I decided to change tactics. I asked her that if I've had a boyfriend, and if I'm not secretive about liking guys, why on earth would I be dating her? I told her that me admitting that I like guys clearly shows that expressing that kind of attraction wasn't an issue for me, so why would I be using her as a cover, and what would be the point of using her as a cover if I was gay first? She told me it's because I was embarrassed. I asked her about what. She said, that you like guys. I told her I'm not embarrassed. I asked her if I looked embarrassed at any point on the day all this went down. I asked her if I looked embarrassed now. She, reluctantly, said no. So, I asked her again. I asked her why I would agree to, and actively pursue, dating her if I wasn't attracted to girls. She got mad at this point, but I eventually managed to calm her down again. We took a breather, I went to my room and she went to my balcony, and when we reconvened back in the living room, she asked why I was dating her. I told her because I love her, that's why. I told her that I thought she was funny, and smart, and gorgeous, and that she had so much life in her that I found it a privilege to even be near her, let alone to date her. She told me she believed me, but she still didn't understand. She asked if it was a phase then, in school, and I told her no. I said to her plainly, I'm attracted to girls, and I'm attracted to guys. She asked me if this meant I wanted to date a guy then instead of her. I told her no. She asked if I wanted to date a guys as well as her and, again, I said no. She asked why I was so determined to be acknowledged as bisexual then. I told her because it's a fact about me, just like that I love books and the color purple, and that I hate the smell of grape-scented felt tips. I told her those were all facts about me too, but they didn't affect our relationship, so neither should this one. I asked why it bothered her so much, beside the whole not believing in my sexuality thing. I said, I know it's more than that because you wouldn't have gotten so angry if it was just that. She explained that she thought me telling her was my way of hinting I was going to break up with her. I laughed and asked in what world that would make sense. I had told her because she asked, and that if I was going to break up with her, which wasn't going to happen, then I would have just done it and not been cruel about it or dragged it out. She said that she thought me saying I was bisexual, and her not thinking it was a real thing, was me trying to take the easy way out, so she got mad. It was almost 2 a.m. on Sunday by the time we got to this point, so we decided to stop and carry on in the morning. When I woke up I was worried and trying to prepare my points in my head, like I do before I say anything important, but I didn't really have to. My GF walked back into the bedroom with 2 mugs. She made me sit up and handed it to me with the promise that she could speak first. I nodded and took the mug. She sat next to me and said that she didn't sleep well, that she couldn't stop thinking about everything. She said she still didn't understand, not really, but that she loves me, and she knows that I love her, and that she's going to try and understand, because she didn't want to lose me or what we have, and that she doesn't like to be ignorant. I thanked her and said I'd send her some resources, so if you guys have any that explain bisexuality or anything in that vein, then please link them. We agreed that we would try and push past this, and that we would make sure to tell each other everything from now on, no matter whether it seems important or not. She's taking counseling at her university to try and manage her anger and controlling her emotions. That's the end of it for now. We're obviously still in rocky waters, and if anything else happens and people want me to update then I will, but I think that's basically all of it. Our talk on Sunday morning was long, but I summed it up as this post is very long already. Also, for people asking me to ask her friends about if they knew about this behavior, I asked her one friend whose number I have, and she said that it wasn't an issue a few years ago, but she suddenly started asking about it around the same time she had met that girl from her old job. Apparently everyone in the friend group had called her stupid or something for believing that, but that was all that really happened. I've asked about who this old coworker is, but I haven't got a reply yet. Okay, thanks everyone, smiley face. TLDR, we had a discussion argument about it, but in the end we decided we love each other too much, and so we would try to get past it. I would be more honest about important things and she would try to manage her reactions and learn more about bisexuality. Stories number 15. How do I, 24F, tell my parents, 50FM, that I have cancer without overshadowing my brother's, 28M, wedding? Edit. Thank you all for your loving and understanding comments. I'm planning on telling my parents. Thank you all for making me realize I deserve support and my parents deserve to know what's up. I'll simplify everything. So in the beginning of May I was told I have Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 1 with risk factors and I finished my first chemotherapy last week. My friends and older brother, 28M, and sister, 26F, supported me. I actually planned on telling my whole family, so parents and younger siblings, before my second chemotherapy, which is mid-June. The reason I chose to wait is because my younger siblings wouldn't have any more exams and it wouldn't affect their grades. My brother however suggested I hide it completely since he and my older sister can support me. My last chemo will be mid-August. Important thing to know is that he never said to hide it became of his wedding but to protect our family. The wedding is overseas and end of July. I feel bad for thinking that maybe he's just trying to keep the vibe and to hide it since the cancer will most likely not kill me anyway. I feel horrible for assuming he's hiding it because of that. My family, especially my mom, has been so happy lately. But I can't help but think that chemotherapy will affect me more and more and I need more than just my older siblings. I just don't want to be selfish and take away the attention. Stories number 16. Aita for charging my girlfriend for rides after finding out she charged me rent for years in a house she owns. I've been living with my girlfriend for about 5 years. When the pandemic hit, I lost my place. At the time, we'd only been dating for a year. I asked if I could stay with her temporarily while I figured things out. She agreed, as long as I covered the rent, and she'd handle the other household expenses. It seemed fair, so I moved in and paid the full rent each month. Less than a year ago, I found out the place isn't rented at all, it actually belongs to her or her family. She never told me. They've never paid rent. I felt pretty hurt and betrayed. It wasn't just about the money, it was the lack of honesty. I brought it up, expecting at least a serious conversation or an apology. Instead, she basically said, "You agreed to pay, so what's the issue?" I told her I wasn't comfortable continuing to pay for something that doesn't cost her anything, especially when she doesn't work and gets money from her parents. I decided to start saving that money instead. She then said her parents only allowed me to live there because I was paying rent. I asked her to talk to them about changing that or at least give me time to save up and find my own place. She refused. She didn't even try to discuss it with them. After that, I started making jokes whenever she asked me to drive her somewhere. I'd say things like, "That'll be $5, or, "Your Uber has arrived." They were just jokes, I wasn't actually charging her, but it was my way of poking fun at the situation. She didn't take it well. We had a big argument, and I told her that if she could charge me to live in her house, I could joke about charging her to use my car. Since then, things have been tense. She stopped talking to me, started cooking just for herself, and pretty much ignores me. A few weeks ago, she felt sick late at night and didn't tell me anything, she just called an Uber and left. I only found out afterward. I told her she should have said something, but she didn't seem to care. Now I'm sitting here wondering if I was out of line. I still feel like I was taken advantage of, but maybe the jokes were too much. Then again, if the roles were reversed, I would have never asked her to pay rent to live in a house that cost me nothing. So, Aita, relevant comments. Commenter 1, no matter who owns the house, you wouldn't live rent-free. It is time for you to move out. If you don't have a savings account with enough money for a security deposit and 2 months' rent, it is time for you to get a second job. Reply, the house is owned, and when that's the case, there's no mortgage to pay. Only the services you use, like water, electricity, etc. Commenter 2, nope. First, many homeowners absolutely have mortgages. In fact, it's almost impossible to get a mortgage on a house you don't own. If you're assuming there isn't a mortgage because you were told her family owned the home, that's unfounded. But even once the mortgage is paid off, there's property taxes, which can easily be $10,000 per year for a very modest house, insurance, and maintenance. Your use of the home creates wear and tear that devalues it and its contents. And you living there is opportunity cost, that space isn't being rented out to a lodger or used for something else. Expecting to live in your GF or her family's home without paying is not okay, and money or support your GF gets from her parents is her money. If her parents are providing her with free or reduced rent or help with her portion of bills, that has zero effect on your contribution. Reply, I'm from the Caribbean, and in my country, there are no mortgages on properties that you already own. You only pay a tax if the property is of very high value or used for commercial purposes, but that doesn't apply to residential homes. I understand it's your money, but I believe I deserve more consideration and honesty from the start. Commenter 3, 1000% NTA, all the people saying, YTA, overlook the fact your GF doesn't have a job, so the money you are supposed to be paying for rent is essentially paying for all the utilities the GF is supposed to be responsible for. Honestly, this would be a massive deal breaker for me. Had she been upfront and honest, you could have offered to pay the utilities and food, but yeah, no, she had to trick you into thinking something else. Reply, that is the essence of my frustration. Why not tell me the truth and charge me such a full rent when you don't even need it? I never intended to live for free, but if your parents have been covering the other expenses since before I moved in, then at least charge a more reasonable rent. Commenter 4, depends what she was asking for. Was the rent proportionate to what a single person would pay, or was she asking you to pay full rate for 2 people living there, inc all the utilities, etc.? Regardless of whether it was owned or not, I would never expect to live there for free. I would happily pay 50% as I'm living in someone else's property. If you think you should be living there for nothing, YTA. Reply, the deal was that I would pay the full rent, and she would cover the utilities. I assumed that before I moved in, her parents were paying the rent and other expenses since she doesn't work. So it was bittersweet for me to realize the truth. I was paying rent for 2 people when I should only be paying for myself, because she owns the place and her share is already settled. Besides rent, I've also covered other expenses. If she had been honest from the start and told me she expected me to pay half, I would have understood. But paying it all without transparency felt more like a joke than a fair arrangement. Commenter 5, I think you're way out of line. What happened to you only staying till you figured things out? If she's paying for water, power, internet, food, phone, shampoo, dish soap and so on, I'd say you have a pretty good deal. Have you seen the prices of a 1-bedroom? Reply, I always bought my own personal hygiene items, and even hers too, it was never a bother for me. After living together for a while, we both agreed to stay that way because we worked well as a couple, and we were planning to get married once she finished her studies. It wasn't a spontaneous decision, it was something we committed to with dedication and a future in mind. I know rent is expensive in other places, but that doesn't justify hiding the truth or making rent the top priority when we could have been saving for a wedding, travel, or other shared goals that mattered to both of us. Update. Honestly, I wasn't even planning to post an update because some of y'all really came at me like I committed a crime. You used my original post as a place to dump all your personal frustrations, especially that little union of single moms. I now fully understand why they're single, by the way. Yeah, I get it, in the original story I might have come off as the bad guy. But no matter what I said in the comments, no matter how small the clarification, I was always painted as the villain. Some of you acted like vultures just waiting to tear someone apart and feel morally superior about it, even though a lot of the criticism said more about you than it did about me. Let's clear some things up. The house belonged to her parents. When I moved in, I thought it was a rental and that her parents were the ones paying the rent. When I moved in, the condition was that I would pay the full rent, which I agreed to. Less than a year ago, I found out that the house actually belonged to her parents. I asked her to talk to them about lowering the rent, but she refused without even asking them. Now the house is under her name, it no longer has anything to do with her parents, and even then, she still didn't want to lower the rent. I clarified it like this because the translation seemed confusing. I never said I shouldn't pay rent. What I said is that my partner never told me the house was hers. I was paying a rent that, compared to other places, was pretty damn high, and I agreed to it in the middle of a pandemic, when I literally had no other option. I wasn't trying to freeload, I was trying to survive. The issue is that she made me believe the house was her parents', and now it turns out it was hers all along. I even asked her to talk to her parents about lowering the rent back then, and she refused. Now that I know it's hers, I'm still expected to pay full rent, no discussion. If we were living in a place neither of us owned, we'd split the rent 50-50. But because it's hers, I cover it all. How does that make sense? Equality only seems to apply when it benefits some of y'all. Bring up fairness and suddenly it's pitchforks and double standards. And a lot of you came at me like I was your ex. I didn't need blind support, I just wanted perspective. But instead, I got a courtroom and a sentence. Also, huge cultural disconnect here, I'm Dominican. Where I'm from, people don't deal with mortgages or mandatory home insurance. You buy land or a house, pay a one-time transfer fee or tax, and that's it. If something breaks, you fix it. Most people don't have to pay insane monthly costs unless they're dealing with banks or luxury properties. Basic services like garbage collection are free in many areas. I pay the equivalent of $338 in rent in a country where the minimum wage is around $394. I earn more than double that, and that rent still eats up almost half my income. On top of that, I contribute in other ways: food, shared expenses, stuff we enjoy together. My girlfriend doesn't work, she studies. Her parents cover water and electricity, and I genuinely thought they were covering rent too. Before moving in, I lived alone and paid $160. This was a planned decision between the two of us. We had a great relationship, and we were working toward a future together, not me trying to leech off her. Also, no, she doesn't do everything around the house. I cook. I clean. I contribute. But I didn't write out a full day-to-day breakdown because I was asking for advice about one specific issue. Y'all ran wild filling in the blanks with whatever narrative fit your outrage. So here's the update you didn't want. We're still together. We're doing fine. And to everyone who came at me with cheap insults and zero nuance, I genuinely hope your night isn't as good as you hoped. Top comments. Commenter 1, why did you stay? She lied to and manipulated you for a year. How did that not destroy your trust? Commenter 2, WTAF, are you still with her? Aita for staying in the relationship. Quit your bitching. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Stories number 17. Aita for telling his mom he cheated when she kept defending him to me. I, 19F, dated this guy for 4 years and we just broke up a month ago. He cheated. Not once. Not an, it was a mistake, cheat. He had a full-blown side girlfriend for 6 months. And I only found out cause she DM'd me saying, I didn't know he was still with you too. So anyway, his mom kept texting me after like, I hope you two can work it out, and, he's just going through a phase, and, men mess up sometimes but he loves you, like ma'am. He raw dogged another woman for half a year. I ignored her until last week when she sent me a pic of him as a baby with the caption, my sweet boy. You guys were so perfect together. So I snapped. I replied, your sweet boy has been rawing a girl named Talia for 6 months and said he felt stuck with me, hope that helps. Now his whole family is mad at me. My ex called me disgusting and said I'm ruining his rep and that his mom is having a breakdown cause she's so disappointed in him now. Aita for finally saying it out loud when they just would not stop. Or was that too far? Stories number 18. My parents are forcing me to pay for my brother's grad school using money they never told me about. I've, 30F, been financially independent since graduating college. I worked practically full-time while studying, recently paid off my student loans on my own, and just started saving to buy a home. I didn't apply to grad school because I couldn't afford it, and my parents made it pretty clear growing up that we needed to stand on our own after high school. My brother, 22M, is honestly a genius. He worked really hard in school, got a full academic ride to a great state school, and graduated with honors. I'm so proud of him. The problem now is he recently got into an extremely prestigious grad program that would open a lot of doors for him. He was hoping for scholarships or a paid internship to cover most of it, but it's not enough. Now he's facing tuition and housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in the country. My parents asked if I could help out and suggested I contribute around $15,000 to get him through the first year. They'd match it, and he'd take loans for the rest. I said no. I've been working for over a decade on my own goals, and I'm just now starting to save for a house. I don't feel comfortable putting that on hold, especially when I had to turn down opportunities because there was no help available to me. During the conversation, my mom got frustrated and said they'd be using my other fund to help him instead. I asked what she meant, and she said they had set aside about $25,000 for me back when I was in college, meant to be used for a future wedding. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea this fund existed. I asked why I wasn't told about it when I was considering grad school, or now while I'm saving for a home. She said it was always intended for a wedding, not school or property, and since I haven't needed it, I'm not engaged or in a relationship, they decided to give it to my brother because he has a more immediate need. I'm not going to lie, I was pissed. I never got a chance to make a case for how I could have used that money, and now it's just being handed over to someone else. I told them I felt hurt and left out. My mom said I was being unfair, and that the money was never promised, and if I didn't want it for a wedding, then it made sense to use it for something meaningful. My brother told me he didn't know about the wedding fund either, and he understands why I'd be upset, but said he didn't ask for it. He just wants to go to school and thought we were all trying to support each other. I know my brother worked hard and isn't trying to take anything from me. But I can't help feeling like my parents are punishing me for being practical. Sum of comments. Top commenter, NTA. Those are really sexist expectations. If they wanted to financially support you, they could give you the choice of using the funds for education, or travel, a home or a wedding. That's what I've done with my daughters, who I've been saving for since they were born. But, despite it being an move, it is their choice how they spend their money. And it is presumably still their money, rather than an account in your name. So in practice the element was telling you that it was your money in the same move that they snatched it away from you again, though it was really the sexism that underpinned that decision, which has clearly been there all along. Reply, that's the part that really upset me. Assuming they set aside money for both of us, why is he worth paying for grad school for but I'm only worth paying for a wedding? I answers a deleted comment. Mom didn't say anything about replenishing the funds, but I'm not sure if she thinks I'd never need it since I'm not in a relationship or engaged by now. I guess technically my parents helped with undergrad because I lived at home and saved on housing. We live driving distance from my university. My brother's school was a few hours away so he had to live there, but his scholarship covered it all. Favoritism. They've never favored him like this before. I tried to point out that I paid off my student loans just fine and it wouldn't kill him to have to do the same. To another commenter. No, that's why I was so upset. They paid for me to get tutored in middle and high school when I had trouble, and let me live at home rent-free during college to save on costs. Growing up they paid for both of our extracurricular and only asked me to babysit him on occasion, which I didn't even mind. We were always really close despite him being so much younger. Commenter. Never favored him like this before, that you know of. My mom liked to sneak covering expenses for my siblings and not me, oldest, girl, to avoid a conversation about why. Who knows, maybe they've covered other things for him and you weren't aware. Reply, they helped me save a ton of money when I was in college by living at home instead of in the dorms. I had basically no expenses besides my car, gas, insurance, repairs, etc., and tuition. Never asked for rent or chipping in on food or household stuff. I moved out after college. My brother is currently at home, graduated early in December, and he's paying rent to my parents. Commenter, NTA your parents are completely sexist. It was okay to save for your wedding but not your education. It is okay to give to your brother for his education but it seems he does not have a wedding fund. Mom and dad are assholes. Reply, allegedly they have money set aside for both of us. My mom said that I didn't want to go to grad school since I never applied, or else they might have had a discussion back then about the money. I think that's BS. Commenter, why is he having tuition in grad school in the first place? Is this just a master's degree or a PhD? He should be pursuing a TA or RA position before the term starts and not have any tuition. Parents can then help him with housing, but if it's a prestigious program he should be getting a cost of living level stipend from the program on top of tuition. If he's pursuing or getting none of this, it shouldn't fall on you to make up the difference. Reply, the program costs around $100,000 a year between tuition and housing. His TA stipend, I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but he'll be working under a professor, plus scholarships and his own savings from internships is covering a little more than half. Commenter, a normal TA ship covers all tuition plus a stipend for living expenses, especially a prestigious program. Grad students are less students and more exploited workers. He will get paid barely enough to live in the city depending on the program. My guess is he needs assistance from the family to fully cover his living expenses, which are dependent on location and roommates. If he has a set housing cost already, you should know, is he living alone or what? Reply, he's still looking for roommates. The housing cost he's already got is based on how much it would cost for him to live alone in a studio apartment. It's a new city really far away from us, so he doesn't know anyone already there. My dad said he might not need financial help next year if he finds a cheaper place with roommates during his first year. What kind of program? It's an MBA program, and he already has a TA position thanks to a recommendation from one of his undergrad professors. It just doesn't cover the whole cost. Update post. Just to clarify, I have no intention of cutting my parents out over this. They let me live at home rent-free during college, gave me a lot of academic support growing up. I wasn't a naturally strong student like my brother, and have always been loving in most other ways. This situation hurt, but it doesn't erase everything they've done for me. Mother's Day was tense. As soon as I arrived, my mom said, I don't want another fight to ruin today, when I tried to bring up the money again. I left after brunch. We finally talked this past weekend. My brother said he hadn't known about the wedding fund until I brought it up and felt awful it was causing tension. He's rethinking grad school now, saying it might be smarter to get work experience first. He applied to MBA programs and jobs while finishing undergrad, graduated early in December, and got into the program he planned to attend. Now he's planning to defer and focus on the job search instead. He also told me our parents had said I might help with the cost. He'd planned to pay me back but realized he wouldn't earn anything for a few years and would still set me back. That's part of why he reconsidered. My mom wasn't happy. She said she didn't want him giving up an amazing opportunity just because I was being bitter. That really stung. I told her I wasn't bitter, I was blindsided. I found out about the money during a conversation where I was being asked to hand over $15,000 for someone else's future. That was painful, especially since I'd turned down opportunities because no help was available. I just wish I'd known. That's when my dad stepped in. After I was born, he started saving for what he imagined as my dream wedding. It was sentimental to him. When my brother was born, they saved a similar amount for his wedding or family expenses. Neither of us knew these funds existed. They only considered using his for school when other aid fell short. After I said no, they decided to use both funds to help him and figured they'd replenish mine later. I get why it made sense to them, but it still hurt. Many commenters pointed out the situation was sexist, even if unintentionally. It's hard not to feel like I was expected to get married while my brother was expected to succeed. I don't think that's what they meant, but that's how it felt. To their credit, they listened. My dad apologized for not telling me sooner. My mom didn't fully agree, but I think she heard me. My brother asked if I'd help with his resume and interview prep, and I said yes. I told him I know this isn't his fault. He's worked hard and deserves what he's earned. I just needed to feel like my path mattered too. We're not back to 100%, but it feels better. I'm glad we talked. Sum of comments. Commenter, so glad to hear that you moved it forward and that your family members each made their own efforts. Sounds like a good family. Reply, my brother's a good kid. Honestly, the silence the past few weeks has been super weird since we usually send each other memes at least a few times a week. I adds in a comment, since some people are getting hung up over the wedding fund money and I couldn't include it due to the character limit. After our talk, my parents agreed to add my name to the savings account so I can access the money directly. They asked that I withdraw it in chunks over time for tax reasons, but it's mine now. My dad still hopes I'll use it for a wedding someday instead of a house, but ultimately he said the decision is up to me. As for my brother, they said he'll get access to his account in the same way when he turns 30, just to keep things fair. Commenter, only your name should be on the savings account. This may be anecdotal, but when I've tried adding another person or I get added to an account, it's always preferred to just create a new account. I would check with the bank on their policy. Reply: I need to look up the tax laws for my area, but I know monetary gifts can do weird things to income brackets or mortgage calculations. We plan to handle that this week. Stories number 19. Aita for telling my dad it's easy to see which wife he actually loved when he complained about people setting him up after the death of his second wife. My dad was married twice. One to mine, 29M, and my brothers, 30M, mom, and the second time to our half-siblings, 19F, 20M, mom. Mine and my brother's mom died when we were 7 and 8, and he remarried a little over a year later. Dad started dating his second wife 6 months after mom died, and he'd been on dates with other women before he met his second wife. We met a couple of those dates. My dad's second wife died 2 years ago, and dad has not dated at all since, and some of his family and friends have tried to set him up with women. It pissed him off, and he ranted at them about how insensitive it is to him when he lost his wife recently, and how could anyone expect him to move on that fast. My brother told him he didn't have that problem when mom died, and he stormed off telling dad to go fuck himself. Dad hadn't expected my brother to say that kind of thing, and he was angry at the people who tried to set him up. After all that went down, he tried to talk to me about it, and he was whining about people thinking he could move on and how she was barely cold in the ground. I told him it was so easy to see which wife he actually loved with that attitude. I told him he was dating 5 months after mom died. 5. I said he was talking to the kids whose mom was so easy to move on from. To the kids who had to fucking deal with it when he remarried after just more than a year. I said if he wanted to get sympathy, he should go to our half-siblings, since it's their mom he's so in love with that he couldn't move on from her. Dad told me it wasn't like that, and my brother and I needed to look at it differently. I told him if he was in our shoes he wouldn't be saying that. Then he got mad because I didn't apologize or say I didn't mean it, and because my brother told him to fuck himself again when he tried calling him to talk about it. He said we have no right to judge him or decide his feelings. Stories number 20. Entitled Coworker wants a crochet Chewbacca for free. I crochet as a hobby, mostly beanies and backpacks, but I can do anything. I spent a lot of my youth making things for other people and had a lot of my stuff turned down because I didn't get the exact color they were thinking of. As an adult, in order to save my time, money, and sanity, I always tell people the same thing when they ask me to make something: bring me the yarn and I'll make whatever you want. It makes it so I don't have to spend money, and it weeds out people who aren't serious. I work at a middle school and students comment on my hat or bag almost every day. It's extremely common for them to ask me to make them something, and I always tell them to bring me the yarn and I'll make whatever they want. A couple of kids have taken me up on that offer and it's worked out great. Then one day a coworker, I'll call him Mr. O, overheard me talking to a student about it. I've worked with him for years and I know this guy is a big earner, more than 100K a year type of guy. I guess he never connected the dots that I was making this stuff, so he came right over and asked me to make something for him. He started by asking if I could make dolls, which I can. Then he asked if I could do a Chewbacca doll. Why not? He tell me that it's for a nephew who really likes Star Wars and gets really excited when I tell him that it's possible and should look great. I tell him about making the hair, the bandolier, a blaster, stuff like that, and he's loving it. Then comes the obligatory, bring me the yarn and I'll make it. He just brushes me off and just says no. He continues asking about the bandolier, will it be removable? I bring it back to him going and buying the yarn by telling him what colors he needs, a few shades of brown, black, and gray, colors he can find by just googling Chewbacca and looking at a picture of him. He looks at me like I just suggested he go jump off a bridge and tells me there is no need for him to do that, I can do it just fine. I told him he was asking me to spend at least a dozen hours of my personal time to make something for him, so I needed him to put in a little time and effort and go to the store to pick out colors. He just laughed and told me he would pay me back later. Then he patted me on the back and left. Now, every once in a while, he checks in with me about his Chewbacca doll. I keep telling him I'm not spending my own money to get his nephew a doll, and he just laughs and asks me when it will be done. Never. It will never be done. At this point, I don't even care if he brings me the yarn. Edit, I'm a man. Stories number 21. When my M30 wife, F28, and I got married 4 years ago, we both wanted children. Now, after 4 years of marriage, she changed her mind without ever telling me. We met when she was a college freshman and I was a sophomore, and we started dating about 2 years after meeting. We really hit it off. She is the most wonderful person I've ever known. We get along great together and have always had a good relationship for the most part. Obviously, like every couple, we have our fights, but we've always been good except for the past few weeks. Children have always been very important to me. I love kids, I'm a huge family person, and I've always wanted to have several, at least 3. She knew that since before we even dated, and I always understood that she wanted to have kids, too. When we started dating, it obviously came up, and she laughed at my enthusiasm for a big family but said it was cute and she wants to have kids, too, in the future. When I began to prepare proposing to her, we obviously had to confirm some stuff, and once again she told me she wants to have kids. I let her know that I want to have kids early, since I really don't want to be an old dad. I want to be able to play with them, have the energy to spend time with them, and look like I'm their dad and not their grandpa. She understood, too. We got engaged, then married, and all this time, when people asked us when the kids were coming, she answered perfectly normally and said maybe sometime soon after the wedding. I'd like to stop just to say that I didn't marry her to have kids, nor do I consider her a baby factory. We dated for a long time and I really genuinely love her. I'm just making sure that you can tell that it was established many times before and during our marriage that we were going to have kids, and that she knew how important this was to me and that she herself told me she considered it important to her, too. After getting married, we promised to wait at least 2 years before having children because we wanted to make sure we had a happy marriage and enough money to properly care for a child. So, we agreed to wait 2 years to settle ourselves together, travel to exotic places, work hard, and set everything up. Plus, we were still young. I was 26 when I married her. I thought 28-29 was a perfectly normal age to start having children. So we waited, at a mutual understanding. Then, when the 2 years passed, I asked her about having kids. She said she was currently going through a really rigorous time at her job because she was close to getting a promotion, but the competition was tight and she really wanted to focus on it without a pregnancy getting in the way. I understood. She eventually got the job, and it was great. Then I asked again, and she said not yet. We moved into a bigger apartment, and she said she wanted to settle in first. I guess, by now, I should have started guessing something was wrong. More time passed, but she insisted I wear a condom and didn't go off birth control. Then, a few months ago, I turned 30. Now I was starting to get worried. I expected to have had at least one child by now. I don't know why I never talked to her about her. We had always been candid about having children together, and I couldn't possibly think of why she would change her mind. All her excuses seemed perfectly reasonable, but now I was getting the inkling that they were just excuses. So we talked about it. I sat her down and told her that I was 30 and I felt I really wanted to have kids before a certain age had passed. We would both be perfect parents, we're happy together, we have a spacious home, both she and I have very high-paying jobs and could be considered wealthy, and her parents live 20 minutes away so they can always help out. That's when she told me she wasn't sure she wanted kids anymore. She said she felt a pregnancy and then giving birth and caring for a baby would take too much away from the career she was building. I was crushed. I told her she doesn't have to quit her job for a child, but she did bring up a point about how much maternity leave would take away from her overall work performance. If she really wanted to continue working, I told her we can both totally afford a nanny for our child to care for her while we're working, plus, her parents live so close. But she told me she doesn't want to leave our child with a stranger or her parents. It was an awful night. What hurts the most for me is the fact that she'd felt this way for a while now, and she knew how important children are for me, and she should have told me earlier so we could figure things out with more time. After a lot of thinking, I finally told her something I thought might change her mind. I'd quit my job. I'd stay home and care for the child. She wouldn't have to take a day off work after giving birth. I'd be here 24/7 for it and any other babies we might have. I knew this was what I wanted. A child matters much more to me than my job. Our family income is pretty evenly split between the two of us, but even with her income alone we can still live comfortably. But she just said I wasn't understanding her point. Now, I'm completely lost. Here's someone I thought I knew, and it turns out I really don't know anything about her. I understand her goals and ambitions and respect her, but it's still something that is important to me. It's still something that I refuse to age and live my life without experiencing. I'm feeling older now. I feel like I should have had a child by now and I want one soon. I don't want to be too old when it finally starts happening. I asked her if she ever wanted a child, and she just couldn't answer. Since then, we've barely been speaking. I'm going to try to talk to her again and sort this out, because we need to decide what's going to happen. But I don't know what to say. I want to get someone else's perspective, but so far we haven't told anyone and she doesn't want us to. I just don't know what to do right now. TLDR, my wife and I got married 4 years understanding we would have kids together because that is very important to me, and she told me she wanted them, too. Now, she says she doesn't know if she wants children and refuses to give a finite answer. I'm worried and feeling old. I want kids soon. I don't know what to do, please help. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Her perspective on something has changed. What you need to do is come to terms with what that means for you. If she never wants to get pregnant, do you love her enough to stay with her, or will you eventually regret being married? If you leave her to find someone else, and women aplenty in the world that do want children, or perhaps already have them, could you be happy with that other woman? Aside of that, has adoption come up? Lots of children in miserable situations in the world. Reply: I suppose this really has been the hardest part for me. The woman I love most in the world is in the way of what I want most in the world. It's too hard of a decision to make rashly, but what's hitting the hardest is the fact that I may have to make the decision. I don't know if I have it in me to leave her. She really is the most unique and wonderful person I know. I can find other women who are mothers or want to be mothers, but I can never find someone who thinks and feels and acts the way she does. It's a heavy decision, but it looks like I'll have to start thinking about it. I would like to adopt, but I would also like to have at least one biological child. That being said, she doesn't want to adopt a child. This had come up before we even had this problem. Although she says she greatly admires people who could adopt a child, she doesn't think she could do it herself. I'll bring it up again and see if her views on that have changed, but I don't think so. Update: I sat her down and we had a long talk. Basically, she said she was changing her mind about a lot of things and she wasn't sure she wanted to have kids anymore. I let her know that that was getting in the way of the plans we had made together, and she told me she knew that and apologized. So I asked her why she didn't tell me, and she admitted that she was afraid I might be unhappy. If she had told me, I would have understood. We would have talked things through and worked something out. What hurts me most isn't that she changed her mind on something so big, it's that she changed her mind on something so big and didn't tell me about it at all, knowing how important this was to me. After about a month of a lot of talking, we came to a conclusion: there was no getting around the issue. Our relationship was, essentially, over. I still think she's attractive, amazing, intelligent, funny, and one of the most interesting people in the world, which is why I told her that, for the sake of any future relationships, it's best we avoid contact as much as possible. Because we didn't break up over a fight or infidelity but for a rational reason, it would be too easy for us to fall in love again or something and continue the cycle. I can't blame her for anything more than I can blame myself, and she's handled it all very well. We're truly having a velvet divorce, if you could call it that. Splitting everything we've saved together as evenly as we can, selling the apartment and each of us moving somewhere else. All of mine will remain mine, and hers will remain hers. She doesn't want it to be any harder than I do. Both of us have our lawyers, of course, but it's being handled with transparency and fairness as much as we can. And yet it still hurts inside. When we finally agreed to file, I sat down and cried, thinking that I had just pushed away the most wonderful person in my life, the person closest to me and most sincere to me over my life goal. And then the next day I realized she had ceased to be that person to me, not on the day we divorced, but on the day she changed her mind on something that affected both of us and didn't even try to tell me. Our relationship was already dying, since it lacked the trust and communication a step like that required. I think that's what's actually hurting me the most. It won't be easy at all. But at least I've taken the steps necessary, and I think that in a few years' time I'll find someone else, someone to connect with who shares my life goals. And maybe 5, 6, or 10 years from now I'll have children with that person. And in 20 years, those children and the mother of my children will mean so much more to me than anything in the world, and I'll be glad I became a father, because I know that's what I truly want out of life, even more than a great career or a nice apartment or a wealthy wife. I will miss her more than anyone, and maybe in those 20 years I'll still think of her occasionally. She's been great about it, but probably because she's realized the relationship was doomed just as I did. I hope she gets all she wants in life, and I don't mean that sarcastically or cynically. She deserves it. It really hurts and I hate to have to write it, but I figured you all deserve to know, even if it's late. Also, writing this all down is kind of cathartic, in a way. TLDR, she doesn't want kids. We're getting a divorce. It's not a horrible divorce, but I still feel empty and sad. But deep down, I also feel optimistic about getting what I truly want out of the future. Stories number 22. Aita for not letting my friend borrow my car after how she returned it last time. I, 27F, have a decent used car that I worked hard to pay off. It's nothing fancy, but it runs well and I take really good care of it, regular maintenance, I keep it clean, no smoking, no trash left inside, etc. I've always been a little protective of it because I rely on it every day for work. A few months ago, my friend, 29F, let's call her Sarah, asked to borrow it for a weekend trip because her car was in the shop. I hesitated but said yes because we've been friends for years and I wanted to help. She returned it 2 days later with less than a quarter tank of gas. I'd filled it before giving it to her, fast food wrappers in the back seat, dirt all over the passenger floor, and the cherry on top, a mystery scratch on the back bumper she swore was already there. It wasn't. I didn't say much at the time because I hate confrontation, but I was honestly pissed. Especially because I expected more out of someone who I am friends with. Flash forward to this week, she texts me asking if she can borrow my car again for a different trip. I told her no, very politely, and said I just wasn't comfortable loaning it out anymore. She seemed to have gotten upset with me and was saying things like, "Are you sure you can't just help me out? I feel like that's what friends do for each other." Like I feel like she's guilt-tripping me. Ick. I responded initially, but now I'm waiting to reply to her. But now I'm getting messages from another mutual friend saying I'm being too uptight and that it wouldn't kill me to help her out, just this once. I feel like I'm being guilt-tripped for setting a boundary after already being taken advantage of once. Am I the asshole for refusing to let her borrow my car again? Stories number 23. How do I 22M get my sister 19F to forgive my girlfriend 25F? Or at least remain cordial. I have been with my girlfriend for 4 months now. We met at the bar and she's legitimately the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen. She's tall, in shape, very pretty, she's just stunning. Everything about the relationship is great. The sex, our friendship, sense of humor aligns. We had differences in our relationship. I'm very progressive and she's very conservative. Which normally I have a hard time getting along with conservatives, but she's taught me to be more open-minded. Now the conflict with my sister arose when my girlfriend was looking at something on Twitter and rolled her eyes. My sister said, "What you are looking at?" and my girlfriend brought up some pro-abortion post. My sister softly defended abortion and my girlfriend is staunchly against it. This is where things get out of hand. My sister opens up about her abortion, saying that it was the hardest decision of her life and told my girlfriend not to be judgmental. My girlfriend basically tells my sister she's a selfish person and irresponsible for getting an abortion. My sister actually cried and asked me to take her home. I drove my sister home and she said my girlfriend is a terrible person, and I let her know I don't agree with what my girlfriend said, but she's not a terrible person, she's a great person who made a mistake. My sister got angry and just stopped talking to me. She will occasionally send me TikToks or videos she finds funny, but declines anytime I ask to hang out or phone calls. Our conversations are non-existent and only consist of sending each other videos. I confronted my girlfriend and told her that what she said went too far. My girlfriend agreed to apologize, but my sister says she wants nothing to do with my girlfriend anymore. Which is fine, but she can at least talk to me. My GF is here to stay whether my sister likes it or not, so I'm trying to get my sister to get along with her or at least go back to normal with me. First update, posted to sub I can't link to. OOP says they hadn't been using contraceptives, now the GF is pregnant. OOP doesn't want it since it'll ruin his plans, but the girlfriend of course plans to keep it, and also not put them up for adoption. OOP feels trapped. Second update, my girlfriend's close-mindedness feels like it's going to make it difficult to co-parent. I love my girlfriend, she's really hot and the sex is great. Unfortunately she's a religious nut and I don't agree with the way she wants to raise our child once she is born. I still say abortion is the best option, but it's her choice and she made it clear we keeping it. We are going to move in together and I'm going to go into the military. Luckily she has a good job and her job is flexible as far as not being tied to a specific location. How do I get her to recognize that she doesn't just get to dictate how we raise our child? Third update, is it unreasonable to expect the future mother of my child to put me on some of her properties? My girlfriend is pregnant unfortunately and we have a great relationship, but we are trying to figure out how to navigate our lives together. Now my girlfriend is already established and has 2 properties, one that she rents out. I am still not established, and so with the baby on the way my plan is to go to Army Officer Candidate School, and when I get to my duty station she will move in with me. My recruiter said she could probably join me in BOLC as well. Now I didn't want to go this route, I wanted to finish my master's, but my GF is a religious nut and against abortion. Still, she's weirdly down with premarital sex and moving in together before marriage for the kid. I love her, but dating a religious fundamentalist takes a lot of work. Still I am stepping up and doing my part. I feel that as a sign of we are in this together, she could put one of the properties in my name, but she's completely against that. I feel like I just want to see that she is going to be all in. I want this relationship to work and our child to grow up in a 2-parent household. She's a great partner, but I think she's struggling with understanding that we are a team now. Fourth update, OOP complains about not feeling appreciated and that he stepped up and is giving up on his masters and joining the army due to the baby. Fifth update, how do I get my sister and I old relationship back? Just want to get some stuff out the way. I was going to make a new account, but people said that was the coward's way, and I'm not trying to hide or take away context. The issue has been people haven't been giving me proper advice. I only get good advice and feedback on the military subs. Now, I do want to address things and hope this helps. I take complete accountability for all the mistakes I have made. Anyway, to the main point. If you've seen my previous post you know that my sister was distancing herself from me and my GF. She got into an argument with my girlfriend and I should have stuck up for her more. After that she has just treated me like an acquaintance. I've given her space and our relationship is just memes now. But what gets me is she has forgiven my girlfriend and they talk more than my sister and I. She never answers the phone but will call my girlfriend and it's really starting to hurt my feelings. 6th update, how can I 22M show my girlfriend 25F I am supporting her? So we got into it yesterday. Her, hey love, wanna come over after I get home from church? Me, no. I got a busy day planned. Her, lol what's that? Me, you'll see. Her, okay. I ended up getting a King Shepherd puppy and a poodle. I asked her to show the new puppies I got and she was not happy. She hung up on me and ignored my calls and text for 2 hours. She finally called me crying angry that I got the 2 puppies. She said if I'm going to boot camp and not OCS who's going to take care of the puppies. In the army it's basic combat training but she called it boot camp for some reason. I know I can find someone whether it's my parents or her I'll figure something out. Still she somehow turned this situation to say I'm not being supportive and making decisions without consulting her, even though she did the same thing but I digress. I want to have a serious talk on making her feel supported and ways to improve our communication. Relevant comment. I'm not going to pile on too much but you got 2 puppies that are very intelligent and are working breeds so will need a ton of training and care. Not a great combination for a solo parent with a newborn. Reply, it's a while from now before the baby is born and I leave for basic. So I'll have time to get them trained up. Another comment, puppies are a big responsibility. I can understand her concerns about being left alone to care for them. I wonder, is there any reason why she would have thought that she'd be responsible for them? If the answer is yes, then I can see her point of view about a lack of consultation. That's a big deal in a relationship. ETA, I've been reading some of the comments here and while your intentions were good, it seems to me that this is mostly a case of acting selfishly, doing what made you feel good, impulsively and not thinking ahead about your GF's reaction. When you were a child you played checkers. Now that you are an adult you are playing chess. So now, instead of just reacting and acting on instinct, you need to think about how your actions and behavior affect others. P.S. My son was the same way at your age, but going to boot camp and entering the military changed him completely and for the better. Reply, it's because we moving in together but I'm confident my parents can watch them while I'm gone. Stories number 24. My 22F, boyfriend, 23M, put a roach in my pants. I have a huge phobia of roaches. It's a real phobia, I can't see an up-close photo of one, I feel like throwing up being near one, I will cry if one touches me. I just hate them. If I see one in a room, I won't be able to sleep. I am seeking therapy on this, I know it's an unhealthy mental illness and I need to get over it. My boyfriend is a very tough guy. He's not the football player tough guy, but he describes himself as a logical nerd. He will tell me I'm being over-emotional when I cry, call me a wimp, etc. I broke up with him a year ago because he purposely took my car keys with him to work so I couldn't go to a friend's funeral. His reasoning was that the friend was my ex, and he didn't want to comfort his woman sobbing about some other man. He agreed to get therapy and he seemed to have changed. My roommate bailed on me, and he was willing to pay rent so he moved in and started dating again. Lately he's been getting annoyed because my cat has been killing roaches and I can't touch them to throw it away. This morning, I was naked and wanted to put on pajama pants. My boyfriend offered to get them and handed them to me. I put them on and felt something crunchy partial in my crack of the butt so I pulled it out thinking it was a wrapper or something and it was a full-grown roach. Dead, and squished. A wing fell off when I threw it away from me. I started throwing up and sobbing uncontrollably. I've never felt so dirty and violated. I kept replaying the moment over and over. I couldn't breathe and I was in a ball screaming. I was so afraid there might still be roach on me. The neighbors pounding on the door to see if I was okay. My boyfriend started yelling at me to stop being an overdramatic bitch and to toughen the fuck up. He said I was being a drama queen and he wasn't picking up the roach for me. He called me a baby and started making fun of me telling me I was a grown-ass woman and a stupid roach wasn't going to hurt me. He said I wasn't putting enough effort into my therapy and he was trying to help me. After showering 3 times and throwing up some more, I called my best friend to pick me up. I'm staying at his house on the sofa and my boyfriend is blowing up my phone. I want to break up with him and kick him out, but am I overreacting? He must have told his family because his mom and sister are texting me telling me that I'm using the phobia as an excuse to be dramatic, that he was just trying to help me, etc. I know a 22-year-old being scared of a roach is silly. But it was really mean of him to do this to me. Am I crazy for being pissed that he tricked me into putting a roach in my ass crack? TLDR, a roach touched my butt, boyfriend tricked me. Roach pants. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Dump him now. There is no redemption from this on his behalf. He knew you hated roaches and he did this and overstepped boundaries and then called you names. This guy can go the fuck to hell. I broke up with him a year ago because he purposely took my car keys with him to work so I couldn't go to a friend's funeral. His reasoning was that the friend was my ex, and he didn't want to comfort his woman sobbing about some other man. You should have never gotten back with him. He is an awful piece of shit. You're not crazy. He is awful. Sorry if I'm being redundant, but I'm like seething with rage after reading this. Reply. That link was very helpful. It is exactly that situation. Any progress I made in therapy has been undone. I'm still crying and I keep feeling little roach legs on me even though I know I've showered and cleaned myself and checked myself. I feel gross. A roach was near my private areas, its dead body touched my asshole. I want to throw up just thinking about it. I don't know what to do. I want to call my parents and ask if I can go back home while I search for a new place. I can't live in that house anymore, but it feels like giving up and undoing so much. How do I explain to my dad what happened to me? I'm so ashamed. For dating him, for not being normal, for having a roach touch me. Ugh. Commenter 2. This jabroni and spider prank jabroni need to get married and move to a deserted, bug-infested island far away from the rest of society, whereupon they fling bugs onto each other and insist, LOL it's just a joke, don't act so crazy, stop being so emotional, it was a prank LOL. Then nuke that island. Reply. The part that pisses me off the most is that he's scared of snakes. He should know how I feel, but his argument was snakes can actually kill you. Commenter 3. I don't even have a phobia of roaches, actually, as long as they are outside and doing their thing, I don't mind then at all, but if my husband did something like this I would mail him home to his mother. He violated your feelings and your issues and dismissed them. They are completely valid. If you want, for you, to get control of the roach phobia, look for cognitive therapy, but do not do it in order to stay with this douche canoe. Reply. I'm 100% not staying with him anymore. I never want to see him again. I want to get help for me. I can't live life freaking out over roaches. What if I have kids one day, I can't break down like today and scare them. I want to be stronger for me. Commenter 4. I don't even have a roach phobia and that would freak me the fuck out. That kind of behavior is unacceptable, but even if it weren't, calling you an overdramatic bitch afterward would be. This dude is bad news and I'm glad you're thinking about breaking up with him. However, how can you ghost him exactly if you live together? Aren't you on the lease? How are you getting out of that? Reply. We had a 6-month lease and there isn't much left on it. I can afford to pay the fee. I'll pay anything to never live there again. He was really great to me at first, and I had high hopes he had changed and therapy had helped him, but I was so stupid. I regret telling him off right at the moment, but I couldn't think. It felt like I was suffocating. Edit. Thank you everyone for the advice. I called my older brother and he's telling my parents now. My best friend is heading to the house to pick my cat up and my important things. My brother said he'd make the 3-hour drive here as soon as he's done talking to my parents and he'll pick up my things for me so I don't have to go to the house again. I'll work on scheduling an appointment with a therapist tomorrow in my home city. I work from home so at least that's taken care of. I'm not sure how to break up with my ex. I know he posted on Facebook accusing me of sleeping with my best friend right now. I'm considering just ghosting him away and changing my status on Facebook. I don't think I can see or speak to him without feeling sick. I know I'm coming off as a huge coward, but right now the only thing I want is my cat and to be home. Update. Edit 2. I have the cat and am back home. I posted on Facebook what he really did, updated my relationship status to single, blocked him and logged out. When I opened my purse, he had put another dead roach in there. I threw away the purse after crying some more. I'm afraid to go through my things. My brother and parents promised me that they'd check everything to make sure there'd be no more surprises. Thanks Reddit, I really needed to hear I wasn't crazy. This will be my last update. I don't want to think about this anymore. Stories number 25. Aita for confronting my dad's new wife at their anniversary dinner. My 24M, parents divorced when I was 16 after my dad had an affair with the woman he's now married to. It was messy. My mom was devastated, and I basically had to be the emotional adult while she broke down. I've always been civil to his wife, but we're not close. At their 5-year wedding anniversary dinner last weekend, she gave this speech thanking our blended family and saying how proud she was of the son I've come to love like my own. It hit a nerve. After her speech, I quietly told her I didn't appreciate being spoken about like that. It felt fake, considering she helped blow up my family. She said I was being childish and rude on her special night. I told her if she wanted respect, she should have respected someone else's marriage before inserting herself into it. My dad got really upset and said I ruined the night. My stepmom started crying and left the table. My aunt, dad's sister, later told me I should have just smiled through it and not caused drama. Aita for finally saying something. Stories number 26. Aita for erasing my parents after my cousin stole my food and had an allergic reaction. I'm 16F and a couple months ago my parents cleared out their office room so my 13-year-old cousin could move in. Ever since she got here, stuff from my room has been going missing. Mostly clothes and my braiding hair since I do hair on myself and others. My crop tops, tube tops, little things like that kept turning up missing, or when I did find them they were cut shorter or stained. Important detail, no one in the house has a lock on their door except my parents and obviously the front door. I asked my parents for a lock since it was pretty clear who was taking my stuff, and they said no because a couple months ago I got caught smoking weed and they don't want anything happening in my room. Okay, cool, I understood that, but not the fact that my things were getting stolen and nobody cared but me since I've brung it to their attention many times, but her actions were always excused with, she's growing up and finding herself, let her be. So one day I confronted my cousin and was like, if you wanted to borrow my stuff you could have just asked, I probably would have let you. And she literally said, because it looks better if it's stolen. We argued, parents got involved, and got yelled at since I'm immature for arguing with a 13-year-old, who obviously knew what she was doing. After that, my parents started acting super standoffish with me. Like barely talking, ignoring me in the house, weird passive-aggressive energy. I was basically just staying in my room to avoid everyone. Fast forward 2 weeks. I come home from school and immediately get screamed at by both my parents at once for giving my cousin food poisoning. Turns out she went into the fridge, stole my leftover peanut noodles, which she 100% knew were mine and that she's allergic to, ate them, and had a reaction. Here's the thing though. Nobody in the house even knew she was allergic to peanuts except her and my dad. Not me, not my mom, no one else. Somehow this was still my fault. Okay, cool. My parents said I could stay with my grandmother who lives 36 hours for the summer for my cousin to calm down from the situation, since every time I walked around in the house I've lived in for 16 straight years she complained she was scared of me. I've been here for a week or two. I tried checking in with my parents a couple times but they barely answered, so I just blocked them, now trying to protect my peace and live my life without the title, the food poisoner, sticking on my back. Now they're blowing up my grandma saying I'm trying to erase them from my life. And honestly I'm not, I'm just tired of putting in effort in a relationship they have obviously given up on. Please give feedback and or advice. Update, I think I'm doing this right. My parents live in New York and my grandmother lives in Los Angeles, California, South Central, so that's where the estimated 36 hours came from. It might be more. My grandmother talks to my mom regularly but never tells me what they talk about, but she did tell me that my dad went through cousin's phone and seen she was planning to meet up with 17-year-old boy to smoke weed and do other things. They also enrolled her into the middle school I went to since she is in 8th grade and apparently she's doing much better, which I don't believe. Not trying to be bitter but I genuinely feel like I have the right to do so. She also said I would have to go back at the end of the summer so this doesn't blow up into a bigger situation than it has to be, and that she is going to try her best to fly parents out later next week for everyone to talk this out at her therapy group. I am going to take everyone's advice and start to save my money from doing hair and other jobs. I will try to convince my grandmother to let me stay with her once this situation dies down for a while, so I will give it maybe 3 weeks. Thank you for all the advice. I will try to keep updates going for you guys. Stories number 27. Aita for asking my friend's girlfriend how old she was when she made that ceramic. This happened a few days ago and I wanted to get some opinions. My friend, who I'll call Marcus' girlfriend, Sarah, invited me and a couple more friends to dinner as a way of getting to know one another. Marcus had told us before that Sarah has been interested in ceramics since she was a kid and there were a lot of them displayed in her home. Now here I want to just say that I had no malicious intent when I asked this question, and I just wanted to show that I was interested in getting to know her as she seemed like a genuinely nice person. So, I saw a little ceramic pot in the living room and asked her how old she was when she made that one, as I also participated in the ceramics club when I was a kid and it reminded me of a similar one I made which I still keep in my house. When I asked the question I could see on her face that she got upset and she told me that she made it a couple of weeks ago. I immediately tried to explain myself saying that I didn't mean it was bad or anything and told her about my own little pot I made, but I could see that it wasn't really helping. Marcus gave me a look and then changed the subject, but I could sense that she was a bit more distant towards me throughout the day. After we left, Marcus called me to berate me while I tried to explain everything again. He is still angry with me for everything, and though I feel bad about my comment, I didn't mean anything bad by it. So what do you think? Aita. Top comments. Commenter 1, soft YTA, only because of the way you phrased it. You could have asked, when did you make this? Asking her how old she was makes it seem like you thought it looked like a child's work. Commenter 2, this is the right response. OP definitely put their foot in their mouth with the phrasing LOL. A simple, oh when did you make this piece? Maybe even followed by something like, I used to be into ceramics when I was younger so I can appreciate the time and effort put into something like this. My 2 cents. Commenter 3, NTA I'm not, by any means, an artist and it's very apparent. I went to Color Me Mine years ago and painted a ceramic container. I painted a flower on the lid. It was god-awful. I gave it to my mom. Being a mom, she proudly displayed her adult daughter's work of art. I was over one day, and my mom had a visitor. He commented on the container. My mom proudly told him I painted it. He smiled and asked me how old I was when I painted it. I said, this old. And I just couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I knew it was awful. He apologized and I said, no need to apologize, it does look like a child painted it. My mom never stopped displaying it. I understand where you were coming from. I'm sure the GF was embarrassed, but you did not intentionally set out to embarrass her. It was just an unfortunate case of foot and mouth. You'll know better next time. Update post. I don't know if anyone gives a shit but just because I thought I would make an update. My judgment was NTA but the real judgment was that I was an idiot which I agree with. So today I talked with Marcus and asked him if he could ask Sarah if she was available today and if she would be open to having a chat as I wanted to apologize and talk to her about everything. She ended up agreeing to meet with me and so I went to her place. I apologized profusely for what happened and told her that I didn't mean to compare her talent or art to that of a child because she was in fact very talented. Thankfully she accepted my apology. I also told her that I liked the pot she made a lot and showed her the one I made. She said that while it was very cute it also looked like absolute dog's hit which is giving it more credit than it deserves. After that, I also showed her my ceramic bowls which hold no competition to their prehistoric counterparts, and my ceramic swan which never really grew out of its ugly duckling phase. We laughed and talked for a while and she offered to show me some more of her artwork which I was very happy about. After everything she even took me to the basement which also doubled as her ceramic studio to show me around there as well. Seeing the opportunity we decided to get our hands dirty and made a friendship bowl type thing together which was very fun. Overall I would say it was a very good day and a successful apology. Stories number 28. Aita for wanting to leave my wife after she gave birth to my child. My, 34M, wife, 32F, and I have been married for 7 years. After a miscarriage she admitted to me that she had multiple affairs over the last 4 years of our marriage. Her last affair ended a year ago. She begged for us to go to therapy to work on our marriage but I refused to go. During this time I had moved out of the house. Occasionally I would go back to take care of the house and animals and she would constantly try to manipulate me into coming back. I had every intention of getting a divorce but the process is slow. I hated the betrayal I felt but I also missed my wife during the separation. One thing led to another and we had sex and she got pregnant again. Shortly after the news came I had to leave for work about 12 hours away from her. She would call to give me updates about the pregnancy and talk about our marriage. We were separated for majority of her pregnancy. I told her that I still wanted a divorce but I would consider reconciling after the baby was born. After several months away from her I came to the realization that I could not trust her nor could I forgive her for her infidelity. I feel like the last 7 years of my life has been a lie. While I was away from her I met someone and a relationship blossomed between us. I truly feel like I love this woman. She has been made aware that I am still married and that I have a baby on the way. My wife is not aware of my new girlfriend. Fast forward to a month ago, I had to go home for the birth of our baby boy. My wife has been pressuring me to reconcile but I told her that I plan to divorce her again. After the birth of our baby boy she has been blaming me for ruining our family because I don't want to stay with her and try to fix our marriage. I want to have a co-parenting relationship with my wife but she is acting very erratic while I am here for our son. Aita for wanting to leave my wife. Any advice on how to deal with this is appreciated. Edit. Thank you all for the mixed reviews. It was expected. I will be talking with a lawyer and will update once I have a chance to talk to one. Appreciate the sound advice as well. Update. Thank you all to those who did not think I was the a-hole here. It's been a tough 2 years. Here's how it went down. I took a paternity test, and my son is confirmed to be mine. I have filed for divorce but the state in which I lived is very conservative and has a waiting period before it can be finalized. The divorce was filed as uncontested and I will be paying child support while also staying in his life. I am selling our house and she is moving to a state close by where my son will only be a couple of hours away. This option also makes her closer to family. Custody arrangements will be updated once she has moved. This has been hard emotionally because she has blamed me for ruining our chance as a family and our son's future. It feels manipulative since I no longer want to be with her and I've taken care of her our entire marriage. My wife still does not know about my girlfriend at the request of my girlfriend. As much as I want to integrate my girlfriend, this will take time to do, and I also felt like my wife doesn't have to know about her until everything has settled and the divorce finalized. It's been difficult for me being away from my son, but I do get to see him every day. I was there for his birth and 3 weeks afterwards. I will be taking leave again to spend more time with my son, take care of the house, the divorce, and to help get her and my son moved. I am glad this marriage is ending, and while it's tough right now with my son, the mutual goal is to have a co-parenting relationship. Despite the things my wife has said and her wanting to continue the marriage, I feel my son will be better off knowing what an actual loving relationship is. My girlfriend has been very supportive of me and I'm ready to move on in my life with her. Trying to get any help or legal advice in the state we got married has been a nightmare and has been overall negative to the choice I have already made. The marriage is dead, but I will be in my son's life. I do not agree with the empty values there. Any advice on how to ensure a healthy co-parenting relationship without a lawyer is needed. Thank you all again. Stories number 29. Aita for hiding that I'm homeless from my girlfriend. I'm 18 and I'm dating my girlfriend who just turned 20. I've been in foster care since I was 13. I lucked out when I was younger. I had some good homes, but the most recent one I had was really bad. I've been homeless for 1 month now. It's been exhausting hiding it from my girlfriend. One of the jobs I work is at a local martial arts gym in my city, which I sneak back into at night because I have keys for lockup. I am pretty sure the owner knows I'm sleeping here because there are cameras. He hasn't said anything. Sometimes he leaves me food. So I'm doing okay for being homeless. I'm saving up and I'm trying to find another job so I can make money faster and find a place to live. I'm staying out of trouble. I don't drink alcohol and I don't do drugs. My girlfriend lives in a university dorm with a roommate. She goes to a prestigious school that she worked really hard to get into. Tonight, she said I have sad eyes and she asked me if something was wrong. I wanted to break down and tell her everything. Instead, I said I was sleepy and hugged her, then made a joke which distracted her and changed the topic. I know in a relationship, you're supposed to be honest. But I guess I have pride or something. All these years growing up, there were so many times I felt like I had no dignity, so it's really hard for me to let go of this pride or whatever you want to call it. It's hard to explain. Besides, she can't really help me. It would just be adding to her stress. Aita for thinking I can find a place, get settled in, basically fix this problem and then tell her. I see these on TikTok all the time and I know what I'm asking is not the same as wedding drama or marriage drama, but I thought I would give it a shot with this being anonymous and all. Comments. Commenter 1. My now husband was living between friends' houses and a direct provision center when we met. He is a very proud man and was vague or wouldn't discuss where he lived or allow me to drop him anywhere, and said things like he was going to visit friends at night. He was always so upbeat and caring towards me that it seemed like a small thing, so I didn't push it. He is also a really hard worker and works day and night. I initially worried he didn't trust me to see his house in case I turned stalker or something. I thought with all the working hours maybe he already had a family or something like that, except he added me on his social media and openly walked around town with me, so that didn't make sense. I totally didn't realize the things he must have been going through till way later, till we had our own place and I accidentally saw an old document he had with the DP address as his address, and it all made sense. Also how he is always helping people he meets who have a had time. Ringing friends and getting them a couch to sleep on, etc. At the time he helped me with any problems I was having, but is very religious and used to tell me that he shared his problems with God, and me being in my little happy self and spending time with him was enough for me to do to help him back. From the woman's perspective, I respect him so much. He didn't lie to me, but he kind of made it clear what he did and didn't want to talk about, and I respected and accepted that. I have a good job and my own money, but he always liked to pay for things like if we got coffee, etc. Things were probably very hard for him, but I'm glad I didn't push it and force him to be vulnerable with me about his fears and circumstances, because I know him and that would have damaged his pride in himself. Sorry for the long rambling reply. I suppose what I'm saying is once you don't make her question how you feel about her, it's okay to struggle and be a man and keep your pride in her eyes. Reply. This was really inspiring. I'm really glad you shared this with me. I actually read it over 2 times because it made me feel less bad about myself. I want to be that kind of man one day, like your husband. I try to show up for my girlfriend and the few people in my life. Not as a burden, but someone they can rely on. Normally I'm really good at presenting myself a certain way no matter what's happening to me. I will go as far as to hide injuries, and I think I have a really high pain tolerance now. I'm always smiling and I like to focus on other people, not myself. But lately I'm working a lot more, and even though I have a place to sleep every night, there's this stress that never leaves. So I guess I'm not as convincing as I usually am because I'm too tired. Like. What I'm saying right now, what was the point I was trying to make? I need to sleep lol. But you said, he didn't lie to me but he kind of made it clear what he did and didn't want to talk about and I respected and accepted that, maybe I could try approaching it somehow like that. Commenter 2. Since you've been in foster care there's so many resources for you. Please reach out to social worker and work on the housing and education. Where you is very kind of them, and possibly you can still work there. You best way out of poverty is education. You can do this. Reply, I had a great caseworker for many years, but she left the field and I got assigned to a really bad one for the last 2 years. I do have an account since I was young of funds set aside for education, which will help me a lot and I do plan to use it. What set me back was an incident that happened at my last foster. Anyway, I have plans to use the money to go to school for a trade. If I run out of options I'll join the military I guess. I heard mixed reviews but I'll do my research. Commenter 3, in response to a moderator removed comment, presumably asking OOP why can't he stay with his girlfriend. She's in the dorms. They probably have overnight guest rules, she probably has a meal plan for on-campus food that requires an ID. And she probably has a roommate having him stay there and be fed would be challenging. Reply, exactly. It would be hard. I'm not even considering it. I really don't want to create trouble for her. Also I'm like 6 feet 2 inches and her dorm bed is really small. I spent a night there once but her roommate didn't like that and didn't feel comfortable. So it's not fair to a third party either. Commenter 4, OP, I'm sorry. I've been homeless, myself, but this. You don't deserve to be 18 dealing with all this. No one does, but you are just in a position I know many go through but I wish no one experienced. Reply, I'm sorry you had to deal with homelessness too. Deep down, I know I am lucky for the circumstances I do have, like the ability to crash at my boss's gym. It's a lot better than a shelter, those honestly scare me. Update. Howdy, I just wanted to come back and share that I ended up confiding in my girlfriend about my homelessness. She was devastated for me but ultimately I'm really glad I pushed myself to tell her the truth. It was really eating at me and it was a huge relief in itself to no longer be carrying that around on top of everything else. We're still together, also a huge relief. My girlfriend is keeping my homelessness a secret. One thing I haven't shared with her, or anyone really outside of you guys, is that I continue to struggle with feelings of shame and inadequacy about this situation, but I know those are more my internal dialogue and not necessarily how others perceive me given that they don't really know. I'm trying really hard to keep my head up and maintain my self-worth and convince myself that I'm not trash. I also ended up telling the owner of the gym I've been crashing at what I've been doing. As I suspected, he knew about it but doesn't want to acknowledge it for insurance purposes, so essentially, this conversation didn't happen. He said I can keep doing it given that I find housing ASAP. I have to move on to a new place to sleep if I'm still homeless in a few weeks. I've got 2 places pending that I know are strongly considering me. I'd happily take either one. Affordable housing here is really difficult to come by and very competitive. There's a lot of interest per listing. I started expanding my search area and this helped, although my commute is going to be rough. Thanks again to everyone who commented on my other post. Comments. Commenter 1. Honestly man, I'm so sorry to hear you're going through this and I'm sending you an air hug. Sometimes just being able to confide in people about the awful things that happen to us can be such a source of relief and just help with relieving the intense pressure and stress if nothing else, and even if the problems aren't fixed. Being open about your situation is tough, but for whatever it's worth I'm honestly proud of you for being brave enough to do it. Being 18 in the world is already hard enough, having to face it out of an unpleasant foster situation and with the stack you've been given isn't fair or right, but I can tell from what you've written that you've been fighting to get to where you need to go. You'll get there. You deserve to be happy and have a place to call yours, you deserve to feel safe and get away from the stress you've been under. Reply, thank you so much man, from the bottom of my heart. I'm really glad I posted here. I know we're all strangers but it's been so impactful for me to read comments. Thank you for taking time to do that. It's hard to explain but I needed the boost y'all gave me. It rewired how I view myself, for the better. Stories number 30. Aita for cutting off my dad after he missed my graduation for my stepbrother's soccer game. I, 22M, just graduated from college last month. It was a huge deal to me, not only because I worked really hard, but because I'm the first in my family to get a degree. My dad, 48M, has always said he's proud of me, but I've often felt like I've taken a back seat since he remarried when I was 13. My stepbrother, 17M, is a big-time soccer player, constantly traveling to tournaments, and my dad is at almost every game. I don't resent my stepbrother, he's a good kid, but I've always quietly felt like I was the serious, responsible one while my stepbrother got more attention for his sports. Anyway, my graduation date was set months in advance. I told my dad early and he said of course he'd be there. But the week of the ceremony he told me my step-bro's playoff game had been rescheduled for the same day. He said he would figure out a way to make both. The morning of graduation, I got a text saying, "Sorry bud, I have to go to the game, it's important for his college prospects. We'll celebrate after." I was devastated. My mom and grandparents were there cheering me on, but I kept looking at the empty seat where my dad should have been. That night, when he called to say congrats, I told him how hurt I was and he got defensive, saying I was being unfair, that I know he supports me but this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for my stepbro. He told me I'm being selfish and immature for making it all about myself. Since then I've barely spoken to him. He texted a few times saying I'm punishing him over something that wasn't personal and that he loves me. That I shouldn't cut family off over one day. Even my stepbro texted me saying he is sorry but I need to let it go because I'm being too harsh on dad and it's affecting everyone else. I don't know, part of me wonders if I am overreacting, but another part feels like I've spent half my life being in the background and always in the second place, and this time it was too much. My graduation also was a once-in-a-lifetime moment for me. So great people of Reddit, am I the asshole? Stories number 31. Invited a kid to my daughter's birthday. Was just informed she's autistic. The child actually turns 5 next week and my daughter turns 4 in 3 weeks. I don't know this family well as they are my cleaners. But when it comes to my kids' parties we are always of the mind the more the merrier. I've literally invited families from the park before. So today he came by and as he was leaving we were discussing it as I invited them a week or so ago. And he brought up he wasn't sure because of her autism which I didn't know she had until now. We have a few autistic kids in the family. They are mostly teenagers or adults now. But it's not new territory for us. First thing I said was something like, "Oh don't worry that doesn't bother us." Which I kind of feel like an ass because duh it shouldn't bother anyone, just let us know what we can do to make it easier for her and you guys. I then explained how the day would pan out, and how many kids were invited and their ages. I then told him, I can set up a quiet area just for her in the TV room. The TV room is literally a tiny ass room with a big old couch and a TV. But it's off to the side. I can also put ambient lighting and sound machines in there. I also can set up some calmer solo activities for the kid too. Or even set up my daughter's playroom for the kid too. I have no problem doing whatever they need. The thing is I know what's worked for my family members and they are boys and it's been ages since they were her age. And autistic or not everyone has individual needs. And I'm not sure at all what her needs could be. He's coming by the house again 2 more times before the party. I would love any suggestions or ideas that I can offer them and their daughter to help make the party a fun experience for her. I even have a play tent I can set up outside. I also have an inflatable water slide. And it's a pool party so I feel like if she needs some decompression time, the kids won't bother her as they will most likely be in the pool. I just really want to do what I can to make this girl comfortable and have her feel safe so she can have a good time with her peers. But everyone is so different so I want to make sure I have some solid and varied options to give them so they can let me know what might be best for her. Okay, I'm rambling now. Thank you. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, it would make her most sense to ask him about his child and what she needs. Then try to help by doing what would help her. Reply, oh for sure. He's a bashful guy and he's not the type to really ask for anything. So I want to make sure I have a lot of options laid out and ready to go so he doesn't feel like he's imposing. Especially because there is the aspect of me paying him for his services so I don't want him to think he can't ask. I figure offering options is the best way to figure out what's needed without him being in the position to ask me for it. Does that make sense? Commenter 2, my brother is autistic and crowds are a huge fear for him. Everything you're doing to accommodate is wonderful, but please make it known that it is totally okay if she doesn't want to come to a party. It can be a lot for a young kid, and he might not feel like he can say no. Reply, oh absolutely. And I did say that. I said whatever works for them works for me. But I'm seriously happy to do whatever they need. Everyone is different and I'm by no means have any idea what it's like to have an autistic child. But from what I've seen with my own family members is having opportunities like this at a young age can really help that interpersonal growth. Commenter 3, it does to me. Is he attending the party with her? I would go ahead and set up the sensory areas you already thought of. As a SPED teacher, I am extremely impressed, and then when they arrive, discreetly say to him that you set up a quiet area in case his daughter needs a break, and leave it at that. Reply, oh yes both parents are. And from a rando with limited knowledge that means a lot to me coming from a SPED teacher. I'm even thinking maybe invite them an hour early so the party is set up and it's just my nuclear family and them. And then maybe as kids and families trickle in it won't be too overstimulating like walking into a party is that is poppin' off but a slow transition. And if they need to leave, at least she will have gotten to engage in the actives and played. Commenter 4, counterpoint, it could also be making him uncomfortable that you're doing so much extra for him, his child. I hate when people go out of their way for me, especially if it's not needed, and super especially if I've already said I don't need anything. My 4-year-old son is autistic, but we really don't need or make use of any accommodations, other than those I provide myself, like his AAC tablet, which he still doesn't use, lol. I would ask if there's anything you can do, and then trust that he's an adult who can advocate for his child if he needs anything. Reply, fair point, and I understand where you're coming from with your POV with your son. But everyone is different. What might work for you, son, might not work for her. It was a quick convo, and I'm here to work out the kinks and get ideas. I'm not rolling out the red carpet, I'm being a good host. Any host worth their weight will make sure all guests are well accommodated. If someone had a gluten allergy, I would make sure we had gluten-free snacks and treats. There is nothing wrong with communicating with your guests and figuring whatever needs they may have. This just happens to be a more unique situation. I'm sure after this even I will have a better understanding of her needs and be able to accommodate her in the future without asking. OOP explains, oh yeah, totally. I'm not going to do anything without their guidance. I just want to make sure I have my bases covered when we have a more in-depth convo. And if they say they need none of that, that's fine. They don't have to do anything they don't want. I just want them to know, I'm happy and willing to do what I can. With the power imbalance, I feel it's especially important for them to know they aren't imposing on me whatsoever. Commenter 5, I love that you're thinking this way. Totally agree that it can be hard for people to ask, especially when there's some sort of power imbalance. Throwing out options means they can pick from that list, or no ballpark the kinds of things you're willing and able to do. If none of what you're offering is quite the thing, they might be more comfortable to say what modification variation of that would actually be good. Reply, thank you. I feel like some aren't picking up what I'm putting down. I'm just doing the best I can with that I've got. And 2 things were brought up I didn't think about. The main one being safe foods. And this is why having a place like Reddit to ask and learn is so great. Food did not cross my mind at all. And now I know when I talk to them next to bring this us. Commenter 6, honestly, as a parent of autistic kids, if my kiddo is having a hard time and no able to regulate, that is our cue to head out. I think just being understanding of them heading to leave at whatever point is great. Reply, oh yeah. They can leave. They don't have to come. I just want them to know we are happy to have them and happy to do whatever can so all our guests can have a good time. Whatever works for them works for me. Edit, man, this got a little bit more emotionally complicated than I expected. First, I am heartbroken and pissed at how many of you said an invite was just enough. That having your kid included meant the world. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry people are ignorant dicks. I'm not doing anything special. I am doing what everyone should do. Treat people how you want to be treated. Inviting a kid into my home regardless of needs isn't some kind of hero moment. It's just what you do. All for one and one for all. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I'm a freaking saint. I don't know and I don't care. Everyone deserves to feel seen. Second, so many of you gave me so much insight to things I hadn't considered. And I'm so thankful that I came here. Only a select few of you were weirdos. Third, what may work for your autistic child may not work for the next. That's why I'm here asking for ideas and advice. To say your autistic child would hate this and never come and shit on my invite, you're kinda a dick. Just because one autistic child wouldn't like it doesn't mean another autistic child wouldn't love what I've prepared. I'll never know what it's like to have an autistic child. But I can say never assume the world your family lives in is the exact same as everyone else. Fourth, I have a paid lifeguard. No one will be unsupervised in my pool. Fifth, I will update you after the party. Update post. 1. For a sub that should be supportive, a lot of y'all are nasty. Think about how if someone spoke about your child that way. 2. The worst offenders were the ones that claimed they also had autistic children. I really hope you don't view your children the way you viewed my guest. 3. If you think it's weird, I invited my cleaner and their family to my party. Open your heart more. I live in the world of the more the merrier. I suggest you do the same. You would be surprised at the community you can build. Okay, on to the thick of it. About 5 days before the party, the cleaner had come by to do a medical check-in with the kitten he had adopted from me. I set up a lot of the party by this point. I was hoping he could see the decorations and layout and have a better understanding of what him and his daughter would be walking into the day of. The day of, I dropped the ball. The mom texted me and said she was having an allergic reaction and wouldn't make it. I didn't open the text and assumed they wouldn't be coming, so I stopped setting up the quiet space in favor of other chores I had to do. Then him and his daughter show up early like we discussed. Entirely my fault for not opening the whole text. If I had I would have seen where she said dad and daughter would be coming. Totally my bad. Those last hours before a party are just pure chaos. She did struggle with some of the decorations, but we figured that out, and I power clean set up the quiet space. I got her all dialed in with the activities, and put on her shows and did other little things to make the space best for her. All from her dad's guidance. She engaged in all the activities at her own pace. It did take her some time to get comfortable, but once she did, she came out for the kids' dance party. She was out in the living room busting some moves, and from what I understand she personally picked out the gift for my daughter, and of freaking course it's my daughter's favorite. These kids are much more in tune than we give them credit for. They know what their peers want. We are having a 4th of July barbecue and they are invited. I appreciate you all and the truly helpful advice you gave. And now after this first event, I know how to make every event more suitable for them. And truly some of y'all need Jesus, and that's coming from an atheist. Like, how can you be that hateful towards me for just including people and building a community? I just will never understand being that negative. Like, get therapy. Go to church. Volunteer at animal hospital. Anything to make you less hateful. We are talking about children and community. Be better. I'll link below some of the photos of the decor. You would be surprised at what you can do with some Dollar Tree shit. Some of comments. Commenter 1, you sound like an awesome person. Thank you for being so considerate and making the world a better place. And I agree with you about some of the weird attitudes in here. Chill out, people. Reply, thank you. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Commenter 2, as a mom to an autistic child, I'm blown away by how you did so much to make the little girl comfortable. Reply, y'all are breaking my heart. I literally did nothing but be a good hostess. Reply, y'all, I am dying. I read this sub every night before bed. And yet here my nonsense is. But let me tell you, any day you're this side of the dirt is a good day. I linked below some of the photos. Forgive the lighting, my house was built in '52 and has no overhead lights and I had to get creative with party lighting. I love to ball out on a budget and most of this comes from the Dollar Tree. If you have any questions on what I did, I'm happy to help.